Council regular council meeting in the Harry E. Mitchell Government Center. It is Thursday, January 13th, 2022. The time is now 6:02 p.m. Members of the public who attend the meeting physically will be asked to maintain distance between other parties, and masks will be required for all attendees, per City of Tempe policy. Alternatively, members of the public may attend the meeting virtually through Cisco WebEx events by visiting tempe.gov/clerk for more information. Council meetings can also be watched in real time via Cox Cable Channel 11 and at tempe.gov/tempe11. Item number 1 is a moment of silence. Please take a few minutes and have a moment of silence. Thank you. Item number 2 is the Pledge of Allegiance. For all of you who are able to and willing to stand, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next up tonight, we have, and what I'm going to try to do this evening just to make sure, so Jason, let me just ask a quick question. Are we going to do voting on the screen here, or do I just do like a verbal roll call? What would be easier?
Voting is available. My understanding is you can.
Okay.
Carla might be able to better answer that.
Okay. Let me do this here. Since my computer just logged out for some strange reason, I'll maybe do a verbal one on the first couple of items, then I'll do a little tech work here in the interim. So first up here, item number 3, meeting minutes. That item would be assisted by Councilmember Navarro. Councilmember Navarro.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I would like for the approval, approval of City Council meeting minutes A1 through 3.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Navarro. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Garland. Let me go ahead and take a roll call vote here. Councilmember Navarro.
Aye.
Councilmember Garland.
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie.
Aye.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Mr. Mayor, can you just mention the reason why the other council members are not present is because of COVID concerns?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I mean, thank you, Councilmember Cubie. Very good point. As we all know, there's been a huge surge in the Omicron variant, and my Facebook feed and a lot of my conversations I'm having with both family and friends right now are people who've all contracted Omicron, and I think all of us have been greatly touched by it, and a number of folks. We all know people who have it at this point. So a couple of council members, myself and Councilmember Garland, are physically here, but all of the council members are taking part in this meeting virtually, and everyone's just trying to do so in a safe fashion. So we kind of allow for people to do whatever makes them most comfortable. So thank you, Councilmember Cubie. Very good point.
The voting is available.
Okay. All right. So I already got votes from, let's see here, Councilmember Navarro, Councilmember Garland, Councilmember Cubie, Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Aye, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Keating.
Yes.
Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. That item passes 7-0. Next up, we're going to move to the acceptance of board, commission, and committee meeting minutes. Councilmember Navarro.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to approve the acceptance of board, commission, and committee meeting minutes 1 through 15.
Okay, sounds good. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Garland. I'll take another roll call vote here. Councilmember Navarro.
Aye.
Councilmember Garland.
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie.
Aye.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Keating.
Yes.
Councilmember Adams. Councilmember Adams.
Aye. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
No worries. I vote aye as well. That item also passes 7-0. Next up here, I'm going to try to do these reports and announcements, and I'm going to try to figure out the tech stuff going on. So item 4A are the mayor's reports and announcements. Each year, the city's boards and commissions are responsible for preparing and submitting an annual report to the mayor and city council. The annual report details the membership, accomplishments, goals, attendance, and the overall work of the boards and commissions. The 6th annual 2021 Boards and Commissions Annual Report will be published in the City Council Weekly Information Packet and on the Boards and Commissions webpage and publicized through MailChimp, social media, and other city media releases this Friday, January 14th. On behalf of the City Council, I would like to thank the 275 Tempe residents and community members who serve on the city's 29 boards and commissions. We are grateful to have engaged individuals willing to take time away from their own very busy lives and family and friends to make a difference in the city where they live. Thank you, everyone. Next up, I'm going to go to item 4B, City Manager's Reports and Announcements. Mr. City Manager.
No announcements. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Next up, we're going to item 5, public appearances. Just want to quickly note that we've received several speaker cards tonight for tonight's regular council meeting concerning the Coyotes proposal. Please note that the City Council has not yet reviewed a proposal as the procurement process is currently underway, and council members cannot speculate on what votes may be or whether the proposal will be approved. Please know that state law prohibits council members from engaging with the public regarding matters not on the agenda for legal action. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council? Let me go to my cards here really quickly. Actually, yes. Okay. No one here in the audience? Let's see. So, Carla, do you have any cards that you'd like to read into the record?
Mayor, we do have one WebEx speaker, David Doiron, if we can bring him forward.
He's actually right here in the second row, so please, sir, come on up.
He came live.
Perfect.
We had him as attending on WebEx.
Perfect. Please state your name and place of residence.
My name is David Doiron, and I've been a Tempe resident since 1959. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you. I have comments about risk. My career spanned 40 years in aviation. I know a little bit about it. I have flown more than 25,000 hours in military and in civilian in airplanes carrying anywhere from 150 to 350 people. I know that there is no such thing as perfect safety, but we try to make things as safe as possible. I had one accident close to me, not that I was involved in, but the guy that was a carpool sharing individual with myself ended up, along with all of his passengers, scattered over the countryside because of something that happened. So there is such a thing as risk in aviation. It has been said for the Coyote Stadium that there's already stadiums on the west side and that therefore it's no different having some stadium on the east side. The difference is the stadiums on the west side are not on the center line of the runway. The proposed stadium would be on the exact center line of the busiest runway at Sky Harbor and only a mile and a half away. I have friends in the first responder business, and they say that if an airplane with the fuel that they carry were to impact such a stadium, it would be a disaster of catastrophic proportions. Yes, 99.99% is that it'll never happen. But there's such a thing as acceptable risk and unnecessary risk. And unfortunately, that stadium is unnecessary risk. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. All right, Madam Clerk, other speakers.
Yes, Mayor, I have a number of speaker cards to read here.
Okay.
First comes from Jeffrey DeGoye. Jeffrey writes, he's from Glendale, and he writes, Dear council members, as a father of a child with epilepsy, this franchise has had a tremendous impact on my daughter, who is now 14, and she's come out of her shell. The Arizona Coyotes Foundation took the time and effort to include her in a player event at a time where she was being bullied at school. I will forever be grateful for this. I know there are countless stories, as I have experienced. Things like Austin Matthews, Leighton Accardo, and Matt Schott don't happen in this if this franchise was elsewhere. I know there have been missteps with this team and ownerships. It has been a challenging 26 years, but this council can be the saving grace for a fan base that has a diehard loyal supporter. Beyond the financial aspect, as I believe the development will drive jobs and revenue, it is the fan base and community it supports that is the main reason. Please keep Matt and Leighton's memory and legacy alive, as well as banners get hung in their names for all the Coyotes fans in their new Tempe home can see each game. Next item comes from Mike and Sue Collins. Actually, city and state of residence is Tucson. They write themselves as representing Roadrunners season ticket holders. They write, as a season ticket holder for the Tucson Roadrunners, we were afforded the opportunity to attend several Coyotes games during the season. Unfortunately, the distance and routes required to get from Tucson to the venue in Glendale makes weekday games almost impossible for many of us to attend. Personally, Saturday matinee games are the only option we can attend. Creating a new stadium arena in Tempe would drastically cut down on travel time, both to and from the arena and I-10. We 100% believe that a new arena in Tempe would increase attendance from hockey fans located in the Old Pueblo, both current season ticket members as well as new fans. Thank you in advance for your time. Next card comes from Jeremy Houlihan. Jeremy, also a resident of Tucson. Reference the Coyotes. And hold on, my screen is freezing up. I'll get to the card in just a second here. Okay, Jeremy writes, I urge the city of Tempe to approve the Arizona Coyotes Tempe Arena proposal. The Arizona Coyotes have a devoted and passionate fan base all over the state of Arizona that needs hockey. I myself make the trek up from Tucson over 30 times a year. I'm not sure if Glendale is attempting to torpedo this proposal to strong-arm the team into a long-term lease at the Gila River Arena, which NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman has repeatedly and publicly said is not a viable option, or if they simply don't care if this great state loses the best sports there is in the world. Please don't allow a bitter city, Glendale, to not allow this to go through because they don't want to have an arena in Tempe. They know it will be more competition in an already crowded market for limited performances, and not only that, but competition in a more desirable location with better proximity to ASU students, closer to folks in Tucson, or along I-17, such as Flagstaff. Glendale has incentive to strike down this project before it gets off the ground. I urge the voters to see through this smokescreen and pass the proposal based on its merits. Thank you for your time. Next item comes from James Pfister of Mesa, Arizona. James writes, this franchise, this organization, this team, the Arizona Coyotes, means so much to so many people in our community. Since their arrival in 1996, the hockey community here has continued to grow, and in recent years grow far more than ever before, especially in the East Valley, where more and more families and development continue to start. If the Coyotes are allowed to begin development on the entertainment district along the Tempe Town Lake, as a fan base and as a community, we believe hockey would thrive in the city of Tempe, would be an attractive destination for tourists and our winter visitors to stay and spend their money. Once the arena is finished, the team would also be ready to contend in the Stanley Cup playoffs every year and be a very competitive and exciting team to watch for years to come. I, as well as many fans, urge you to consider the project and to partner with the organization to move forward with the proposal. Thank you for your time, Council. Next item comes from Ryan Robinson of Tempe. Ryan writes, I am voicing my strong support as a resident of the neighborhood. Hold on just a second. Yep, this is reference to Coyotes. Sorry about that. I'm voicing my strong support as a resident of the neighborhood, residents at 12th and Judd, for the Coyotes proposal to relocate and build in Tempe. The environmental remediation, along with the economic impact, are two factors for my support. Next item comes from Mark David Sanchez. Resident of Phoenix. Mark writes, born and raised here, I grew up with this team. It is my childhood. This team has had bad luck and bad bounces for 15 plus years now. Please help break that streak. The entertainment district proposal is the break that they need. With the location proposed, I would switch from partial season ticket holder to full. As the weekday games, I would be able to not have to fight traffic in. Please vote yes. Mark D. Sanchez, resident of Phoenix. Next item comes from Lindsay Steinberg. Lindsay also writes for reference the Arizona Coyotes arena proposal. Lindsay writes, the Arizona Coyotes proposal would be a great decision to move forward with giving the opportunity to let more fans attend games as it shatters the issue that has been haunting the team since the start. The new arena in Tempe is far more centralized location, allowing fans from all over the valley to attend games. Turning away from the proposal is not only shutting down a potential revenue stream, but also shattering the hearts of thousands who stand by this team day in and day out. I ask the council to reflect upon their decision and encourage them to allow the Arizona Coyotes to stay in Arizona with their new home in Tempe. Last item comes from Marion Sholu, and she writes, reference item 6B1, which is not a public hearing item, but we went ahead and put her under general comment. When outsourcing services such as pathway lighting and maintenance, what tools are in place to keep both the vendor and the city accountable? I live close to the Indian Bend Wash and the lights are not being maintained. The light poles and Ramada lights at the birding area 600 feet north of the multi-use path and the 202 freeway crossing have been out for a year now. Additionally, I want to bring attention to the same area, which along with North Tempe has a growing homeless problem, drug activities that come with public property being defaced and damaged. I am aware of the different programs that the city has put in place to address the issues, but it is not sufficient. This is a safety concern for North Tempe residents. Mayor, that closes the public comment for this section.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Really appreciate it. So next up, we're going to go to item number 6, which is the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda will be considered as a group and will be enacted with one motion by the City Council unless an item is removed for separate consideration. Members of the public may also remove public hearing items for separate consideration. Public hearing items are designated by an asterisk. Council members may remove any item for separate consideration or to declare a conflict of interest. If a council member would like to declare a conflict at this time, the city clerk will provide the council member with a disclosure form. If you wish to speak on a public hearing item, please fill out a speaker card located next to the city clerk and submit your completed card back to the city clerk prior to the agenda item coming forward for council consideration. I will call your name when it is your turn for public comment. The consent agenda this evening is miscellaneous items 6A1 through 6A19, awards of bids and contracts, items 6B1 through 6B25, and resolutions, items 6C1 through 6C10. Any agenda item marked with an asterisk is a public hearing item and can be removed by a member of the public for separate consideration. If anyone would like to have a public hearing item removed, please get my attention now.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I'd like to remove item 6B21, please.
6B21.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
could I remove 6C9?
item 6C9. Okay,
Mayor, can I remove 6C10, please?
6C10. Any other items that council would like removed for separate consideration? Right now I have 6B21, 6C9, and 6C10. Yes, Ms. Gitlis.
Yes, item, I don't know if it is on the consent agenda, but the item about upzoning resolution, if that's on the consent agenda, would you remove it, please?
Yes, that is on consent. Let me see if I can find the exact number for you. I believe it's 7A4, but let me just take a look. It's non, okay, so it's non-consent, so let's see here. Let me just make sure here. Okay, and actually, so Ms. Gitlis, the item you were referring to is item 7A4. It's not on the consent agenda, but it's on non-consent, so you can come up and speak during that time. So, okay, you got it, thank you. All right, council, any other items that you'd like removed for separate consideration? All right, then the chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as read, with the exception of items 6B21, 6C9, and 6C10, which have been removed for separate consideration.
So moved.
Sorry, so, who had the first motion?
Joel.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Navarro, and then seconded by Councilmember Garland. I will go ahead and everybody please vote. And for those who are not in the chambers, let me just go ahead and do a roll call. Vice Mayor Keating?
Yes.
Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage?
Aye, Mayor.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. And that item passes 7-0. So next up, moving to the items that were pulled from the consent agenda for separate consideration. The first item I have was 6B21, which is to approve an addendum to the contract with Architecton, Inc. for the Design Guidelines, Maker District, and Smith Innovation Hub project. And I believe that was Vice Mayor Keating who pulled that item.
It was, Mayor. Thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge this item. It's for the design standard contract for the Maker District and the Smith Industrial Hub, and both projects I think will add a lot of value to our city. I'm particularly proud, as you know, of the Maker District. I do believe that it's going to do a lot of good for that area in central Tempe there, and we've already seen some things come in which I believe have been very beneficial, will be beneficial once they're completed. I'd like to also publicly thank Councilmember Navarro and former Mayor Mitchell and yourself, Mayor, for current Mayor Woods for your help in bringing this project to fruition. And I'm just really proud of the Maker District, and I wanted to acknowledge that. So I also want to thank the rest of my colleagues. I believe this was unanimously supported to go into the supplemental process. So thank you all for that support as well.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Keating.
Approve item 6B21.
Okay, so it's been moved for approval by Vice Mayor Keating. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Garland. Let me go, I'll vote here, and Councilmember Garland. Okay, let me go down the line for the rest of them. Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Aye, Mayor.
Councilmember Cubie.
Aye.
And Councilmember Navarro.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. That item passes 7-0. The next item that was pulled was item 6C9, which is to adopt a resolution authorizing the chief of police or a designee to execute an agreement between Crisis Response Network, a division of Solari, and the Tempe Police Department for dispatch of crisis intervention services throughout the city of Tempe. Was that Councilmember Garland who pulled that item? It was Councilmember Navarro, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. No, I just want to recognize, this is just another tremendous step. The city of Tempe taking really bold moves with policing, with community outreach, human services. This is just a great program that we're starting to initiate. Having a dispatcher within the 911 center be able to determine crisis response needs and utilizing Care 7 to help respond to those calls, and working with PD officers and other dispatchers also to train them, but also recognize how to address when we talk about mental health and people in need. As we all know, that we're trying to not escalate things into PD matters, which you probably have seen from time to time. But I think this is a great response to where we're truly using a crisis response person to help people within need with mental health issues. And to also to parlay on the other additional stuff that we do within the city with policing and what we're doing with other community services, transportation to get to these people, and transportation to get these people to the right location. This is just another tremendous step that this city is doing. And I just want to have this recognized, and big kudos to our police department and our dispatch center, but also Human Services, Crisis Response Network, and Solari, who's going to be helping us with the partnership of this need. And I just have to say firsthand, being in the alarm room with the Phoenix Fire Department and the 911 system for on the fire side as they dispatch the region, and Tempe included, this is tremendous. Having the ability to have someone there with our dispatchers to help out the people that call in with need. Where they'll be able to also, Tracy's call, or be able to have rapport with these individuals if they do call 911 again and try to get them into direct help. So this is a great start, and I just want to say thank you, and I'll be voting for this. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Any other members of council have any comments on item 6C9? My only comments are to second Councilmember Navarro's comments. I think this is a great step forward and a great collaboration between the Tempe Police Department and our Human Services Division. And I just think it's one other thing that the city of Tempe continues to do to put us at the front of the pack when it comes to innovation and really listening and responding to community needs and concerns. And so I think this is a fantastic partnership, and I'm very much excited about it. Hearing no other comments, do I have a motion to approve item 6C9?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Navarro. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Garland. Okay, please vote. All right, I'm going to go down the list. Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Aye, Mayor.
Councilmember Cubie.
Aye.
Councilmember Navarro.
Aye.
And that item passes 7-0. The last item that was pulled from the consent agenda was item 6C10, which is to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a one-year agreement with Dudley Oaks LLC, DBA Super 8 Tempe ASU Motel, to fund the continuation of a temporary emergency non-congregate shelter for individuals experiencing homelessness in Tempe. And I believe this item was pulled by Councilmember Garland.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to give another great shout out to our Human Services Department. And we just talked about this at our Housing Authority meeting. Levon was up here, so I want to thank Levon and Paul and Naomi. I just think you guys have done an incredible job to put us in a better place to address our housing and shelter needs. With passing this, this gives us the 50 rooms, plus we have the 40 at Roadway, which gives us 90 rooms. If you look at that are 90 transitional and non-congregate shelter rooms. If we do the 62 congregate shelter through iHelp and New Leaf, that's 152 units. And so that is a huge leap. So Naomi, thank you. You guys have done a great job, and I think we're starting to make things better and taking the right steps moving forward to take care of our homeless and those people who really need shelter. So I just want to say thank you, and I'm ready to make a motion to move forward, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Garland. So I'm just getting a couple other cards here that I'm just trying to keep organized. Anyone else have any comments or questions on item 6C10? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve item 6C10?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Garland. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Cubie. Please vote. Okay, I'm going to run down the rest list here. Councilmember Adams.
Aye, Mayor.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Aye, Mayor.
Councilmember Cubie.
Aye.
Councilmember Navarro.
Aye.
All right, and that item passes 7-0. All right, next up we have our non-consent agenda. All items listed on the non-consent agenda will be considered separately. Agenda items scheduled for introduction and first public hearing will be heard but will not be voted upon at this meeting. Agenda items scheduled for second public hearing and final adoption will be voted upon tonight. Council members who may have a conflict of interest may abstain from voting on a matter, and the city clerk will provide the council members with the disclosure form at this time. First up, item A, miscellaneous items, bids, contracts, and resolutions. The first item under this section is to award 3-year contracts with 1 3-year renewal option to 55 qualified trades contractors to provide building repair and maintenance services.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Adams. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Okay, seconded by Councilmember Garland. I was like, that one didn't seem controversial. All right, please vote. Okay, I'm going to run down the list here. Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie.
Aye.
Councilmember Navarro.
Aye.
And that item passes 7-0. The next item under the section is 7A2, which is to approve an increase in the contract amount with Fischel Company for the purchase and installation of fiber optic cabling communication systems. Council, was there any comments or any discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve item 7A2?
So moved, Mayor.
Been moved by Councilmember Garland and seconded by Councilmember Arredondo Savage. Please vote. Okay. Roll call for the rest. Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Aye, Mayor.
Councilmember Cubie. Councilmember Navarro.
Aye.
Okay. And that item also passes 7-0. The next item under the section is 7A3, which is to adopt a resolution authorizing an extension to the temporary pilot program, allowing home-based businesses for barbershops and beauty salons in the city of Tempe. Council, any comments or discussion?
I make a motion to approve.
Moved by Councilmember Adams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Cubie. Please vote. Okay. Roll call here. Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie. And Councilmember Navarro.
Aye.
That item passes 7-0. The next item under the section is 7A4, which is to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to waive the accompanying development plan review application, waive the accompanying PAD overlay, and related zoning fees associated with the city-initiated upzoning process. I've got a couple of cards here for this item. I'm going to go in order. First of all, Ms. Gitlis. Please come forward and state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the City Council.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I am not exactly ready to speak to you about this item. I've only recently, within the past 45 minutes, heard of it. But we're talking about allowing over-the-counter upzoning, as far as I can tell. And as in my position as a supporter and fighter for historic preservation of old buildings that may need to be redeveloped, I think that is sending a very bad message to a community that has been overrun by development, some of it quite obnoxious, over the past decade or more. And I think I can understand that there are people that think there is a need to do this, but we are sending a wrong message to people about this, and I haven't heard any discussion about it. If the city has a plan to make this an operational program, then can we please have some transparency and some open discussion about what this would consist of and how it would impact us? I know I have lost zoning rights since I purchased my property in 1985 in Maple Ash neighborhood. That has been extraordinarily painful. I know we had an opportunity to downzone properties, historic properties in Maple Ash, or any property in Maple Ash and other areas in the city, and that was a wonderful opportunity. It did not eliminate anybody's opportunities to build what they wanted on it. But as somebody who fights for historic preservation, I count on every single project going on in an open and transparent manner so that the community gets a chance to understand what is being suggested and how that is going to change the context of their neighborhood and their city. So I ask you please to not vote on this at this point in time. This is really jumping the shark badly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Gitlis. Let me do this too. I've got Philip Yates as my second speaker, but I also want to make sure that I get, is Ryan LeVake on the phone from our planning department?
Mayor, I'm available.
Okay. Let me, so if you don't mind, if I could have Mr. LeVake kind of give a little bit of an update of what this actually sort of means, because Ms. Gitlis talked about sort of saying, hey, I've just learned about this recently and I'd like for the public to be informed. So, okay. Sure, sounds good. Okay, Ryan, if you could go ahead and kind of give a little update to people, here in the audience and watching at home, exactly what this item is referencing.
Mayor, thank you very much. Ryan LeVake, Deputy Director in the Community Development Planning Division here. We generated this resolution proposal for City Council to take into consideration, working closely with economic development and basically identifying areas of potential properties that need redevelopment or areas that have concerns with slum or blight. And this is an opportunity to look at designated area, a site location. This could be certainly a one-off site location that the city of Tempe as an applicant would apply for. There obviously still requires us to go through a city public process. We'd have to be required to go through a neighborhood meeting to hold and get input on a proposed site. The location would have to be authorized by a property owner. There'd be public hearings by a Development Review Commission and 2 city council hearings before any decision is made on a rezoning of a property. This would basically just allow the city as an applicant initiating process, not propose for a development, but propose for a rezoning of a property to look at a more appropriate zoning land use designation. In the future, if a development does plan to come forward, they'll have to go through a very similar process and have to present a proposal to City Council for consideration through a public hearing process. This is only to work with economic development as an applicant initiating a process, and they'll need to provide the justification and reasonings for such rezoning change as would be vetted through a public hearing process.
So real quick, so Ryan, what you're saying is that if the council approves this evening, it doesn't open the door for all of a sudden us to sort of upzoning properties all over the city, including historic properties, but it would allow for us to sort of target certain areas in conversation with the neighborhoods who would be affected by them for the purpose of actually addressing issues of slum or blight, as you referenced here. So basically, a project would still have to go through the process and still require 2 public hearings and neighborhood meetings if something like this was actually to take place?
That's correct, Mayor. And I'll also be on record to say is that we're not intending to target any historic designated properties, any properties that are historic eligible for that matter. It's really looking at areas that are in definite need of redevelopment, not properties and sites that have historic value to the city that we want to see preserved and maintained. We went through a similar process with the voluntary downzoning process where we created this similar initiative that was available to the public. This one is specifically for city-initiated requests.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ryan. If you could hang on the line for a little bit, I want to go and get Mr. Yates to come up and speak as well.
Finally, please, I'm going to ask, I handed you a letter by Mr. Southard to be read.
We unfortunately can't do that. That's not part of our approved process to read the letter. It wasn't submitted as public comment, so, but anyone who's here in the audience can absolutely speak, but the letter was sort of sent via council communicator and not as a public comment item. But Mr. Yates, would you still like to address this item as well, or? Okay, sounds good. Please state your name, place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and City Council members. This just fell on my plate about 45 minutes ago, just like did Karen Gitlis's. And as a neighborhood representative and I live right on where Roosevelt and 3rd Street is, and my aunt moved a house there that is the oldest brick house in the city of Tempe. And historic preservation has always been close and dear to my heart because I'm a fifth generation Tempean. I don't know anything about this. And I would respectfully ask that this be waived. I need to know a lot more about what this pertains to. And at this time, I really hope you don't vote yes on this because I certainly don't know anything about it. But with that, I'll close unless you have questions for me.
I'm good. Does anyone else have a question for Mr. Yates, or? Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Yates, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else from council, any comments on this item?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Cubie.
So I'm a little confused or just want some clarification from Ryan. So are we saying this is just a one-off that applies in particular to, the hotel site that we're looking to develop in North Tempe to build housing, or is this truly just a one-off? Because I'm not clear about that.
Yeah, this certainly can be a one-off. It's unfortunately the information in the resolution doesn't specify a time limitation period. So if the council wants to address the availability of this resolution and limit it to a time certain, maybe just for 2022, then we can certainly add that to any acceptance of this resolution.
Well, I would be interested in that, but what I have particular concern about is historic preservation concerns. So properties like that are Tempe historic property registered or classified as historic eligible by the Tempe Historic Preservation Commission or listed in the Register of Historic Places or eligible for the National Register or traditional cultural properties. Is there a way to exclude those properties that are designated that way? And from my understanding, that would be consistent with the Historic Preservation Plan update, which is going to be recommended to be approved by council. I'm a little bit concerned that there has been no input from the Historic Preservation Commission that ensure that this was consistent. So I realize this might just be intended as a one-off, but is it possible to create language that will define that and make that clear and exclude the historic properties from the potential upzoning? Because I don't want to make it easier to upzone historic properties. It's already pretty easy to develop a historic property. You only have a very small window of time.
Mayor, Council Cubie, we certainly can add language to that that would not be utilized for historic eligible or historic designated properties within the city of Tempe.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Is that something, could I present a motion, Mayor Woods, that we would exclude properties designated or classified as those categories I listed, the abbreviations of THPR, HE, NR, NRE-E, and TCP? Because that is consistent with our historic preservation draft plan.
Okay, sounds good. I guess I'll look to our city attorney to see, is it okay for Councilmember Cubie to add that additional language onto this item, on item 7A4?
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. It is a resolution, so the code and the rules would allow an amendment to be made and included in the resolution to exclude either the historic designated and or historic eligibility properties, as Councilmember Cubie mentioned.
Okay.
Should I read that list again, Judy?
Sure. Yes, Councilmember Cubie, if you want to read that for the record just to get all of that noted, that would be great.
Yes, I propose an amendment that would exclude properties designated or classified as Tempe Historic Property Registered, classified historic eligible by the Tempe Historic Preservation Commission, listed in the National Register of Historic Places, eligible for the National Register of Historic Places, or listed as a traditional cultural property.
All right, so that was, so I guess, Councilmember Cubie, just to make sure I'm doing correct Robert's Rules of Order, was that a sort of a motion, or do I need a separate kind of motion, Madam City Attorney, on Councilmember Cubie's addition, or do I need to do it all in one fell swoop?
I think if Councilmember Cubie was interested in making a motion with the amendment as read into the record to approve this item as amended, she could do that.
Okay.
Otherwise, you could take a separate vote on the amendment itself.
Okay. Let's, yes, Councilmember Cubie?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I propose that as amendment to exclude the properties designated or classified as THPR, HE, NR, NRE, and TCP.
Okay. Let's go ahead and just for, for clarity, let's take the amendment by itself, and then we can take the item after that. So that motion was made by Councilmember Cubey to exclude historic properties. I won't read everything she said. I think we definitely all heard. Is there a second on that motion? Seconded by Councilmember Garland. All right, for that purpose, I'm going to go ahead and just sort of take a roll call vote here. Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Garland? Aye. Councilmember Cubey?
Aye.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage?
Hey, Mayor, I said aye. I'm voting online now.
Nope, sorry. Vice Mayor Keating?
Yes.
And Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well, so the amendment passes. For the record, if we wouldn't mind just now saying we're going to, is there a motion to adopt item 7A4 with the amendment that was just approved 7-0 from council?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt. The
Yes.
proceedings. It was brought up before by Ryan Levesque that we could consider a time limitation here. And I wonder because there could be unforeseen consequences and it is supposed to be a one-off, but to just ensure that we are following through that intention, could we put a time limit or that we would revisit this at the end in 1 year's time?
Sure, that sounds good to me, actually. Is that a motion, Councilmember Cubey?
Yes, that is a motion.
All right, sounds good. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll do second by Councilmember Garland. So the motion, just as read, is to put a time limit on this. I would say till the, Councilmember Cubey, would you agree that the motion would be till the end of calendar year 2022?
That sounds fine to me, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, sounds good. So the motion would be to, for this to more or less, I wouldn't say sunset, but frankly, come back for review at the end of 2022, just to make sure that the policy is indeed working as intended and protecting historic properties in our community. I'll go ahead and take a roll call vote just on this amendment. Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Garland? Aye. Councilmember Cubey?
Aye.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage?
Aye, Mayor. Sorry, I'm voting online.
Oh, I see. So, I'm sorry about that. Vice Mayor Keating already voted aye. Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. That item also passes to have a review at the end of 2022, 7-0. With that, Councilmember Cubey, any other amendments or things you'd like to add?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm good.
Oh, thank you. No, both very good suggestions. Really appreciate that. With that said, is there a motion to approve item 7A4? Moved by Councilmember Garland. Do I have a second? Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Garland. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Navarro. Okay, please vote. Okay, Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubey?
Aye.
Councilmember Navarro?
Aye. Aye.
And that item passes 7-0. So item 7A4 passes with both amendments unanimously by Councilmember Cubey. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that. All right, next up, item 7A5, which is to adopt a resolution to modify the schedule of rates, fees, and charges for flood irrigation services by amending Appendix A, Schedule of Fees and Charges of Tempe City Code, Section 33-74. Council, any comments or discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve item 7A5? Moved by Councilmember Garland. Do I have a second?
Aye.
Seconded by Councilmember Cubey. Please vote. Vice Mayor Keating? Oh, aye. Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubey? Councilmember Navarro? Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Okay, and that item passes 7-0. The next item is 7A6, which is to adopt a resolution authorizing a maximum dollar amount for an individual job order of up to $2,300,000 for the purpose of procuring construction services for the Envision Center Resiliency Hub. Council, any comments or discussion? Been moved by Councilmember Garland. Do I have a second?
Yes, Lauren.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Cubie. All right, please vote. Okay, Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
And that item passes 7-0. The next item under this section is 7A7, which is to award job order number 23 to Builders Guild Incorporated for the Envision Center / Resiliency Hub project located at 1310 East Apache Boulevard. Council, any comments or discussion? Been moved by Councilmember Garland. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Cubie. Please vote. Okay, Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Thank you very much. That item passes unanimously 7-0. The next item under the section is 7A8, which is to award a construction contract to Hayden Building Corp for the Tempe Municipal Operations Center, GMP number 1, Masquerading and Site Remediation Project located at 2617 West 1st Street. Council, are there any comments or discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve item 7A8? Okay, thank you, Councilmember Garland. Do I have a second?
Second, Mayor.
Seconded by Councilmember Arredondo Savage. Please vote. Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
And that item passes 7-0. The last item under this section is 7A9, which is to award a construction contract to Caliente Construction Incorporated for the landscape improvements library campus project located at 3500 South Rural Road. Council, any comments or discussion?
No, Mayor, move approval.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Garland, seconded by Councilmember Arredondo Savage. Please vote. All right, Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
And that item passes 7-0. The next item on this section is the non-consent agenda, is ordinances and items for introduction and first hearing. These items will be read and introduced tonight, but no vote will be taken. The second and final second hearing and vote for these items is scheduled for February 10th, 2022. The first item under the section is 7B1, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance for a zoning map amendment from R2 multifamily to R3 multifamily residential restricted and a development plan review to add a new one-story multifamily development consisting of 4 dwelling units to an existing development for 4th Street Apartments located at 1235 West 4th Street. The applicant is Palmer Architects. Is the applicant here? Would they like to make a statement?
The applicant, Palmer Architects, is not here, but I'm the general contractor on the project and the owner is here.
Okay.
We only need to make statements if the council has any questions or.
You got it. Sounds good. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the city council on this item?
Mayor, no speaker cards on my end.
Okay. I'll close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion? All right, hearing none. The second and final public hearing on this item is scheduled for February 10th, 2022. The next item under the section is 7B2, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt a resolution for a general plan land use map amendment from residential to mixed use and a general plan density map amendment from medium to high density to adopt an ordinance for a zoning map amendment from R3 to MU4 and an amended planned area development overlay and a development plan review to add a new 3- and 4-story multifamily development consisting of 129 units of residential to an existing commercial development for Dwell located at 430 South Farmer Avenue. Is the applicant here? Would they like to make a statement?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Darren Sender Associates, 464 South Farmer Avenue in Tempe. We do have a presentation. I'll go through it rather quickly. I'm not sure how much you want to see on this, but Mr. Mayor, let me know what you have. If you want to hear the architect from John Kane, he's here as well. He's the owner and architect. So I'll go through pretty quickly. This is a project that's really near and dear to my heart and to John's as well, and very, very important to the developer, Hulualoa. Steve Betts is here as well, and he's going to speak briefly. The location is northwest corner of 5th and Farmer. The Architecton office building is right on the corner. My office is in there. And you're probably familiar with Zion and Zion, a nationally recognized PR firm that is occupying the northern building, northern existing building. To the west are some older apartments, single-story apartments, and that is the development site. It's a true mixed-use project utilizing existing office buildings and existing development and bringing in residential component to those offices. Directly adjacent to the east is the Beam office building that's going in. Just north of that's the parking garage for the Beam. Southeast corner is the Vibe Hotel, and there's a beautiful new single-family residence that's I wanted to put on here. It's not that huge. It's just sort of an icon, but there's a beautiful new home that just was developed and built just south of us. There's just a little bit of context. You've probably all driven through here. Many on council have been in this building. This is the Beam building, the parking garage to the north that used to be a parking lot, and some wonderful Christmas displays and events have been occupying that site for years. So now we've got a new neighbor, and we're very excited about that. Again, in context, this is the existing Zion building that's adjacent, so this is the building site. Kind of see a little bit there of the Vibe Hotel that's being constructed kind of towards the end, and a view of the existing apartments, 5th Street apartments that were part of this site. That's the home, or a portion of the home with the Vibe Hotel in the back, in the background. Let's see here, let me get this out. Okay. So I won't go through all the history, but basically this was proposed for a mixed-use PAD approval in 2000. This property where the office buildings are and the properties to the north, that development didn't happen. And later in 2002, our office buildings, the PAD for that was approved. Those were subsequently built and occupied in 2003. The Zion building, which is the northern office building, was approved and built around 2011. And that project proposed future apartments on the residential site, the existing residential site today. So this is actually the phase 3 of the original, the 5th and Farmer, the Farmer Studios PAD. So this was anticipated as a part of that. Current proposal includes the phase 3 to redevelop those apartments and a portion of our parking lot that we're currently using. So between the IDEA campus, Mill and Rio, the Beam, Tempe Depot developments, multiple hotel projects, you're set to add nearly 1.9 million square feet of office and commercial, 962 hotel rooms, and hundreds of workers within a half mile of the site. Dwell will contribute to the housing necessary to support that growing workforce in the downtown where rents continue to climb outside employees' reach. The site plan, quickly, purple are the existing offices that are there, and blue are the three buildings that are proposed, with a common area in the middle that's existing today, but that will be accessible to both buildings. So this will be a fully flow-through site plan, access between the office and the residential. Parking is below the blue buildings and around the blue buildings. And they are proposed to be a stabilized granite, just like our current parking lot at Architecton is, to create more of a park-like feel, but also to keep heat gain down. We love that parking lot. It's like walking in a park to get to office every day. 129 units on 2.06 acres. These are proposed for dwell as all studio and one bedrooms. So parking at grade, as I mentioned. The interesting thing about this, and Steve Betts will describe this for you in a few minutes, but it's designed as a workforce product. It's designed to maintain that level of rents by design. This is not to be covenanted, there's no development agreement, and there are no incentives requested. The amenities are geared towards a work from home and towards people who work in the downtown area. Interior finishes are geared towards work with built-ins, as Steve can describe that. And the focus is on work from home for people who have to work from home or want to work from home, either full-time or part-time, but also for employees of the downtown area who simply can't afford to live, excuse me, in downtown. Quickly, the surroundings, excuse me, it's along Farmer Avenue on the east side edge of Riverside. Very, very close to a multitude of amenities for transit. We've got, obviously, light rail station down the street. We've got streetcar. We've got multiple bus routes. We have 20-minute walking and biking radii, which are extensive in this area. You can reach a lot of things in this area. So locationally, it's prime for just a wonderful location in the downtown and North Tempe area. We already went through the requests. And then I'd like to introduce Steve Betts with Hulualoa to describe his vision for this. And it's truly a vision and something from the heart.
Great. Why don't you stay, because you'll take questions, I suspect. Hi, Mayor, Council. My name is Steve Betts. I'm at 211 East Catalina in Phoenix. And I know many of you from a prior life when I was the CEO of Suncor, building projects along the lake, Hayden Ferry Lakeside and others. And I had, I've got a chair. Oh, thank you. I had a opportunity to sell off most of my assets for my parent company, sell off my company and retire, but frankly, would be bored in retirement. And so for the last 10 years, I've been flunking my retirement, taking on special projects and special roles. And I formed a real estate group for ASU, University Realty it's called, and Sky Song and the DC project for ASU, and things that the university can't take on themselves. I chair that University Realty and many other fun projects, like for the Helios Foundation, built a foundation building for them on 32nd Street, and that's where I got to know John Kane. John, we worked through selecting architects, really could have selected an architect for that building from anywhere in the world, but we have great architects in Arizona, and John being one of them. But in working with John on that Helios campus project, got to spend a lot of time with him at his building, and he talked to me about this concept he had for turning his 2 office buildings into a mixed use, to really densify that site, to densify the urban fabric, and that's something I've believed in for a long time, that opportunity. At the same time, I had been sitting on the GPEC executive committee and working with a lot of municipal officials in that area about the jobs that we're bringing in. We've got an amazing pipeline of jobs coming to Arizona, to the Valley. You all in North Tempe have done an amazing job of that, as Darren has already mentioned. But the jobs we're bringing in, although they are wonderful jobs, the vast majority of them are in that $50,000 to $75,000 range, which are good jobs with benefits. But unfortunately, we are building housing, both for sale and for rent, that exceed what people making that wage can afford. What I've discovered, and as talking to people, is that we actually do a great job of building high-end housing, and we have some really good people that are building affordable housing with incentives, state incentive, federal incentives. Now you all are talking about local incentives, and so. But what we have a problem is the missing middle, is what I refer to it as, the attainable housing, the workforce housing that frankly shouldn't need to be incentivized. You shouldn't have to put local dollars into attainable workforce housing if it's done right. And we call it workforce housing by design. You should be able to build and design and build a project that is just designed to be at that price point affordable by somebody that makes 50 to 75. That is something I started talking to the Hulualoa companies about. They do projects all across the country. They've done multifamily, typically at that higher end, but talked about that missing middle. They've been doing projects now in the valley that you've seen called Cabana. The Cabana projects fit that. They're attainably priced, they're workforce priced, but those are more at the suburban scale. They're 10 acre. They're surface parked on the exterior. I've been challenging them to do this at an urban scale. Can we do workforce housing by design in an urban context, like North Tempe, like downtown Tempe? Where the two collided is talking to John about his site. Can we put workforce housing by design on a podium wrapped around office buildings, existing office buildings, where we're densifying that and turning it into mixed use? I reached out to the mayor over a year ago, talked to him about this concept. So this is really a one-off. It's a first of a kind. This is an experiment, you might say. But if we can prove it here, I think we can do a lot more of these. And I think we have proven it. We've proven it in concept by working backwards into a pro forma to show that we can design something that's really cool, and John can describe to you why it's really cool. And it's got to be cool to wrap his really cool office buildings. So something that's really interesting, cool, urban, sort of urban loft type looking, but at a price point that is affordable at that 30% of what somebody making 50 to 75 grand can afford. But here was the kicker, because we started working on this project during the pandemic, as Darren already hinted, is we started thinking about the fact that so many people now have to work from home, either full-time or part-time, or choose to work from home full-time or part-time. And so we started thinking about designing these units for those people that are serious about working from home, part-time, full-time. So all of these units are designed to have work units built in, to have workspaces. So they're not working from their kitchen table or from their coffee table or from their bed. And so we have workspaces built in, millwork built in, or there's actually a cubicle built into the corner of their space, or in some of them, they have offices designed into the unit. And so it depends on what unit they rent, but they all have workspaces. But the other key to it is the amenities. Instead of these high-end amenities that are basically like hotels in some of these high-end apartments, where you have these high-end pools and party rooms and rock climbing walls and movie theaters and spas, we don't have any of that. What we have are we have Zoom rooms if people need to get out and make a Zoom call, but they've got a loved one or somebody in their apartment with them that wants to watch TV. So we have Zoom rooms, we have meeting rooms. If you need to have a meeting with 4 people, 5 people from your office, we have meeting rooms. We have larger meeting rooms. We have casual collision spaces, sort of like a Starbucks without the barista, both indoor and outdoor spaces for people that want to get out and get out of the apartment, take their laptop with them, get some fresh air and work that way. Of course, we have a fitness center. Of course, we have a dog run. Of course, we have a barbecue. So we have the essential ingredients that you need. But the real amenities are downtown Tempe. Let's go quickly through some of these. So we provided to you and to staff sort of a breakdown of how we worked back into the rental units, and you can see in our studios and 1-bedrooms the projected performa, what the performance shows on the rents, and they all fall within this 80 to 120, which are these attainable workforce sort of definitional rates, and you can see how we sort of fall within those price points on our urban studio, which is a little bit smaller studio than a full studio, a one-bedroom with office, and a one-bedroom with patio, which we have some of those on the ground level that John will describe. Yeah, and we're the, sorry, oh, you lost it. There you go, I got it back. Then what we did is we went to looking, and we're the lowest by rent in all of the comparables that we looked at, all the other projects around us by several $100s a month. And that was really our goal, was to be substantially lower so that we fall, not only do we fall within that 80 to 120, but we're substantially below what others. But here's the real key to it, is that we took a look at what the real workers, the people in downtown Tempe, the account specialists, the chefs, the paralegals, the graphic engineers, the people that work, frankly, in John's offices, the teachers, the librarians, the cops and firefighters, and took a look at what they're making, the typical salaries, and then took a look at what they should be spending and how each of them fit. And then we applied them to these units. And as you'll see, a graphic designer, experienced graphic designer makes $53,900. They're really priced out of all the units, but they can rent one of our units. And go on to the next one. The claim specialist at State Farm, same thing. There they can rent either our studio or our urban studio, but they're priced out of all of the other projects around us. A cop, a Tempe police officer, entry level, makes $61,300. Again, priced out, but they can rent here.
I actually have a question, Steve,
Yes.
just about that. So, I mean, obviously, this is the first public hearing, and we're not voting this evening.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. I mean, so the next hearing is on February 10th, where we take final disposition. And I'm curious if there's a way for you to sort of directly market to some of the groups that you just spoke about, because I had a conversation with a governing board member for the Tempe Elementary School District just last night, and the question she immediately asked me was, is there any workforce housing coming into the area for teachers?
Yes.
And so, talking about how you've sort of based these rents off of what the teachers in our 3 school districts make, along with a lot of other professions that you kind of mentioned, would there be a way to specifically even send out, I don't know how to do it, but contact the folks at Tempe Elementary and Tempe Union and the Kyrene School District and talk about the fact that this development is here? That is obviously if it's approved, but would there be a way to do that?
Absolutely. And frankly, I hope that if we can prove it up here, that we do a lot more of these. And frankly, I hope that others catch on. I hope that this, you can't sort of, you can't keep others from imitating. And I would like others to catch on because we need a lot more of this. And we can't do it all. And this missing middle problem is not just in downtown Tempe, it's really all across the valley. And some of these locations in the valley are very urban like this. And so my hope is, Mayor, that we do get the word out and that we only have 129 units here. It's a relatively small complex. I hope it does fill up with these sorts of folks, and I hope we get the opportunity to do a few more of these.
Well, I'll just say really quickly, and I've told a number of people this over time. I mean, the missing middle story is something that very much deeply resonates with me. My mother was a teacher, my father was in nonprofits, but even on a personal level, I sold my home in Tempe that I'd lived at right around the corner of Mill and Baseline. I owned it for 14 years, and first and only home I've ever owned. And when I made the decision that I wanted to move somewhere else within the city to try to find something to purchase, everything that I saw that was currently on the market was way above what I wanted to pay. As a single person, without any children, without any pets, the notion that the only home I could get into was going to start at $650,000, $700,000 for 2,500 square feet. It's more house than I need. It's a bigger mortgage than I frankly need. So, this is the argument of, where does someone go when they're ready to rent a place, but they don't really want all of those amenities because they want to keep the rents down? Where does someone go who's looking to purchase a home, but they're not looking to purchase a massive 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath home, but they just want something that's nice and small as a starter home? We just have a real lack of available stock of that kind of thing, both in the rental and home ownership market in this city. So I really like the concept you're laying out.
Thank you. And you're talking about purchasing, but you're right, rental. Too many people are renting at 50% of their disposable income, which is really not what they should be doing. That doesn't allow them to put money away for savings and the like. And And again, what the rule of thumb is 30% of should be put in. And that's really what we're trying to get at, is that 30% sort of threshold. And anyway, we talk about nurse, we talk about mechanical engineer. This is really a chart that we, again, provided. And this is really the difference, the comparison to other projects. Again, our units are smaller, but they are very, very efficient in the way they're designed. And our amenities are different. Yes, we have a fitness. Yes, we have a courtyard park, we have a dog run, we have all the essential ingredients. We have a bike repair storage because we want this to be very multimodal, and we have a bike storage in every unit because we want everyone to have bikes in their units. But what we don't have are the fancy sort of amenities. And frankly, I've used this analogy before, but if you're building a Hampton Inn, you're going to get Hampton Inn rates. If you're building a Hyatt Regency, you're going to get Hyatt Regency rates. This is a Hampton. We're designing and building to a rate point. And that's why, as Darren points out, we're not asking for incentives and we're not looking to deed restrict it, because we're not going to be able to get in the future Ritz-Carlton rates, because it isn't designed to be a Ritz-Carlton. It's not going to be something that we can ever push the rates up higher, because they're smaller units and the amenities aren't those kind of fancy amenities that people can sort of demand those kind of higher rents. So anyway, with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but John Kane maybe can give us a quick overview on the design.
Did I hear anyone else who wanted to speak, or from council?
Mayor,
Yes,
can I-
Councilmember Navarro, please.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you. And thank you, Steve, for coming down and talking. I mean, this is outstanding, in my opinion. Obviously, you get it. You understand that we're trying to find that sweet spot for the working class, and I think you guys have hit it. There is, just talking to people throughout the business, and there is federal programs out there that helps out to maybe offset or to try to do more affordable housing or workforce housing, but it's so complicated to use those funds that it actually is pushing people away to try to do those concepts. I think this is great that they're doing a build that is affordable, a build that makes sense, a build that has, just like Steve said, and it just doesn't have the amenities, but downtown is our amenity. I love this idea. It's the market, it's organic, it's driven by the market. I'm hoping and I'm hearing, because I know the rumors out there is this is a housing market that they need to target. And I'm hoping more people get into the business of targeting this market. So with that said, and I know John's going to have his presentation and I want to hear it, I really do support this. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Let me go to Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Oh, hey, thank you, Mayor. Hey, Steve and Darren and John, I just want to say thank you guys so much for what you do. I haven't had the opportunity to meet with you in regards to this project offline, but I do have a couple questions, and don't disagree with the idea of really, I think one of the areas that we could always help and improve is our workforce housing. Always looking to make sure that we have a really diverse housing stock in the city of Tempe, and I know that's been a priority for all of us. But I do have a question. I know, Steve, you were talking a little bit about like the units, and the units all being studios and one bedrooms. And let me go back and look at my notes here. And then I know in order to get to that number, there is a significant reduction of parking, which I get. I know you mentioned all the multimodals and everything like that, but I thought I saw somewhere in the background material that there is a fee for parking. Can you tell me a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah,
How that's going to work out?
Happy to. Thank you very much for the question, Councilwoman. So first off, we have the way this helps to keep cost down is it's shared parking between the office and the residential. So that helps a lot on the cost down. So when John's folks and the design folks are not there in the evening, you have the residential folks there sort of parking. So you got the day-night distinction. I think we all know how these shared parking sort of models work. But I'll be honest, we sort of dug a lot deeper into that. We hired a company called Zondo to do a study of other similar projects in other cities. We looked up and down the central corridor in Phoenix at some projects. We looked down at Tucson. There's actually a project right on the people mover down in Tucson that's almost identical, where they were able to make a shared parking model work very, very similar to this. But then we looked at other cities like Seattle and Portland and places like that too. And so we shared that with staff. That got me personally comfortable that the shared parking model would work. But having the fee, it's a $75 fee for parking, is a fairly modest, fairly reasonable fee. And what it does, it's just so that it encourages people, frankly, to not have 2 cars or 3 cars, to be not as car dependent. And so we're hoping that people, like the project that we looked at down in Tucson, will be more about their bikes and walking, and everything is, as Darren pointed out in her presentation, everything is so proximate, so close. That we believe with that system that people will have 1 car per unit, not more than that.
Right. I get that. Okay. I just wanted to kind of hear that from you. I wasn't really sure, how that kind of works into affordable or, workforce housing, because that is an expense, obviously, that goes on top of that monthly rate. And I know reading through the documents and everything, and I do appreciate the history lesson back from 2000. I know you mentioned 2000, 2002, 2011, but, we kind of forgot to mention, I think, which is my biggest concern here, isn't necessarily the design or the concept or what you guys are trying to do, because I really think it really fits into everything that Tempe is about, is trying something different, being innovative, and trying to see if we can get people out of their cars and living downtown and being able to work and live in Tempe. I love that. I think that's great. I think, though, the issue I'm having here is I don't want to do that over the promise that I believe has been made to the neighboring residents. So the history lesson was 2000, 2002, 2011, but in 2016, we created, and the residents voted on our general plan, the general plan for 2040, which included a buffer zone to really kind of the stair stepping down from the urban core, the high density into medium density, and then to low density into the neighborhood. And that had always, and as long as I've been on and been around and know this conversation, it has really been all about west of Farmers. So, my biggest concern here is when we go from 25 dwelling units per acre, which basically has to do with, the density, the people that are inside, and then going from 25 going to 63. I mean, that's like more than double what I believe we've promised our residents and our adjacent neighborhood. So that for me is a very big concern and a roadblock, I believe. So I don't know if you would be amenable to, keeping that concept, but maybe really changing the mix of those units to incorporate some 2 bedrooms to really bring that density down, in regards to just being respectful to our neighbors. Because if we make an exception here and then we do it again there, somewhere else, I mean, at what point do we say there's a buffer? So
Right.
I know I was part of this conversation. We've had developments in the past that we have like development creep into the neighborhoods. And I just really want to make sure that we don't do that we've held true to our promises, to create that buffer and to really work and understand what density means. And so that for me is the biggest challenge, to be able to say, yes, 100% I'm all in. Again, I'm going to say like Joel did. I mean, I think this concept is great. I think it's different. It's unique. I think the city would really benefit from something like this, but I'm not going to go there at the expense of a promise that we made to our neighborhoods and that was voted on by our residents. So that's where I'm having an issue, but I would really welcome any discussions you may have, maybe looking at ways that you could play around with those number of units to really get that density down. So that's my 2 cents, Mayor, and my feedback. Thank you.
And Mayor, if that was I think it was sort of a question to me, and we thought a lot about that, and we talked to staff about that for a while, and there, Councilwoman, there's a couple of aspects to that we considered. And first off, it does greatly impact then that rental rate. The larger the units get, the more expensive they are to rent, and so they become more expensive. And number one, number two, the type of people we're renting. We don't want this to become an ASU sort of student rental. We really don't want this to be rented to folks that sort of have roommates, and we want this to really to be professionals, and who tend to be individuals and tend to be and so that's why they're all studios and one bedrooms, or one bedroom with it might have an office or a patio, and it really is kind of geared toward the worker, and the size is really geared toward keeping the rental rate as low as we can to fit that missing middle. And I would say, just as a professional in this area for now 4 decades, density is a little bit about the design of the project. There's a couple things about this design that I think make the density. One is we kept it very low scale. I think you know that, how it really steps down dramatically from the Beam project, and how we tried to sort of fit it nicely into the neighborhood. But the other part is how we internalized everything in terms of the amenities, but the third piece is how quiet the project's going to be. And again, it's not going to have any loud amenities. And then the fourth, I would say, is the nature of traffic. And if it is a live-work, if you design it intentionally so people tend to stay there and work from there, either full-time or part-time, then they're not leaving as much. They're not going in and out every day in the morning and in the evening. And that's our traffic report sort of reads. If you read that, it kind of goes into that a little bit. So I don't think it's as impactful in terms of the density. But anyway, those would be my comments on it. The final is just more of an economic one, which is that it's very, very difficult to make it work economically on a pro forma and to manage a smaller complex. Frankly, the 130, 129 unit, that's, as you know, as you've seen apartment complex projects come to you, that's actually a really small apartment project. And you don't see many get built at that small a size. And if it gets smaller, if it drops down significantly smaller, it's just not very economically viable. And so you're going to lose development projects in terms of the viability. So
I understand and I appreciate that too. And I know that staff had in the background material made a recommendation to try to keep it at 45 dwelling units per acre, and obviously that wasn't able to be reached. And I get it, and I understand your perspective, and making sure things pencil out and how important that is to be able to keep things affordable. And you're only on like a really small like postage stamp right there anyway. So my thought process is I'd love to see you kind of work around with those units, and also I have heard that the neighbors are definitely have some concerns too. So I'd really like to see them get on board. For me to just kind of, just reevaluate the whole development in general. I mean, especially if the neighboring neighborhoods say that's something that they could possibly live with, or there's a happy medium or a compromise, I'd definitely be willing to look at that. But again, I really appreciate you guys bringing this forward. And Mayor, thank you for the time.
Thank you, Councilmember Arredondo Savage. Next up, Councilmember Cubie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just want to reiterate also the impact of density is lessened when you have less parking requirements, and I think that's greatly appreciated. I think there'll be a natural appeal for people that don't drive to live in an area like that, and ultimately best urban practices that reduce parking and not have excessive parking in the downtown area. So I like that you're thinking in that way. Thank you so much. I'm interested to read more and hear more, and also get the neighborhood's perspective. But I think that you've alleviated a number of my concerns about density.
Thank you, Councilmember Cubie. Any other council members any comments, or we'll go to John since Darren talked about, John knows all the cool stuff about the project. John, I'd love to hear more about the cool stuff.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Not that what Steve said wasn't cool. I want to be very clear. I don't want Steve to stop talking to me.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. John Kane, 1013 East Sandpiper Drive, Tempe. So as Darren mentioned, the idea is to create a true mixed-use project that horizontally is mixed between our existing offices and these new residential projects. And it's all linked together with a shared parking, commons, courtyard in the middle, and then a lot of wonderful kind of outdoor spaces throughout. Again, it has the same kind of texture, urban texture, fabric scale in terms of this zone along between Farmer and Wilson. And then what really gets us excited is these kind of spaces in between. So we have our existing retention courtyard that we're maintaining, and then a variety of outdoor spaces, again, that the residents and the office users can actually share and work together. So everybody works together. So these are kind of unique in terms of seeing projects like this that we don't really get to see a lot of. Usually we separate all these uses. And here we're really trying to bring them together in a really kind of true, unique way. Also, again, trying to get the scale right in terms of transitioning from the scale of the beam that was approved a while back down to the neighborhood scale. So along 5th Street, we're doing a 2-story over the parking layer, so a 3-story scale along that. And then putting really kind of wonderful little patio homes to shield the parking and engage the 5th Street pedestrian experience. We're also working on keeping these mature trees that are here, again, which is really part of the project, trying to keep that urban shade consistent. And then the scale along 5th Street, or excuse me, Farmer, where it goes to basically a 4-story scale. Basically our parapet scale almost works pretty much aligned with the roof penthouses on the project to the north of ours. But again, this kind of wonderful breaking down the scale of it to work to that pedestrian scale. And then looking at the spaces down at the ground point, and there's little vignette studies in terms of how all these little pieces work. So working at the details, call out to Rob Gaspard and Works Bureau, who we've been collaborating with on this project. Has been fantastic to really kind of collaborate to create a really kind of fun project that meets everybody's needs and meets the budget, but still gets the architecture that I think we're all expecting and wanting. And again, this notion too of a true desert building where the buildings are closer together, but it's a really important lesson that we've been learning from desert architecture across the world, where they're tighter and they're become self-shaded, but then creating really wonderful, meaningful spaces in those spaces in between that can be used. And then again, the retention courtyard, and then how we're using color to break up and create the identity, and then externalizing the circulation system, again, for a more sustainable approach to energy. And then even subtle little things like the pocket park, kind of how we create a little urban amenity where we give back a little space along Farmer. So again, kind of that give and take and looking at every square foot of the site and using it to its full potential to create a really unique project. And as Darren mentioned, the parking is not like an asphalt parking lot, but it's actually a series of concrete pads and the gravel pave system. So it's almost like this kind of wonderful plaza that weaves through and uniquely ties the whole project together. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Ms. Sender, anything else?
No, I believe that covered everything. I want to make sure we get through this quickly. And just wanted to mention also DRC, we had a lengthy conversation at DRC, had some great questions, and ultimately was a 7-0 unanimous approval at the DRC. So most of what John was talking about was discussed, a lot of architecture and design issues as well. So
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Council,
Yes.
any more comments for Darren?
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Navarro.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. No, I just once again, John, thank you for the visuals. I do think that your architectural design and I love the landscaping. I mean, just the fact that you're concerned about the heat effects, the trees, the use of mature trees, the landscaping down 5th Street is great. I love the fact that it does transition. 5th Street has the 3-story type of structures, looks low impact. And then you're putting the 4-story on Farmer, which I think is appropriate with the height that's going there. And especially it matches the height of the other surrounding buildings, the 3 stories with the rooftop balconies. So yeah, and I understand Robin's concern, and we should, as a council, know that we do not want to make sure that the neighborhood gets overbuilt, so to speak, with too much height in that area. But as we know, case by case and how things fit within an area, there are some probably wiggle room on how we can adjust that. And I think we obviously can say that, as we go down Fifth Street, we're not going to be doing anything within the neighborhood of this magnitude or height of that sort. We want to hopefully keep residential homes and encourage more home building within the neighborhood. But I think this is appropriate within this corner and within the structures there. So the visuals were great, John, and I do enjoy the landscaping, and that's really important to me. But I think, once again, I think you guys have hit it, especially with the low cost, but yet it doesn't look low cost. It looks very nice, and well done.
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Any other council members, any comments or questions? All right, great. Thank you, Ms. Senator. Appreciate it. Oh, yes.
So, John, and thank you for all your service on the Sustainability Commission since its inception in August of 2015. And I know that your middle name is Bioswale, right? John Bioswale. So I'm hoping we'll see some bioswales included in the project and also curb cuts along the project, along the street, because I think that helps to enhance the pedestrian experience. So I'm hoping we'll see that in the design.
Thank you, Councilmember Cubie. Any other council members, comments or questions? All right, hearing none. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, let's see. I'm going to first go to people in the audience wishing to address this item. I have Philip Yates. Please come up, state your name, place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. And so I've had lengthy discussions with the people that live in this area. I live right around the corner from where this is being proposed. And there really is no support for it in Riverside because of, well, it doesn't need to be a RU4. Anything that of this size could be something within a MU3. And it's just, it looks more to me like an investment than it does to actually something that will actually come to fruition. And when I see apartments that are going for, or studio apartments that are going for $1,365 a month, that's definitely going to push out a lot of the people that live in the area. A lot of the people just, they can't afford $1,400 studio apartments per month. And so even if this were to happen, I know for sure, there's no question in my mind that a lot of the people that live in this area, so this is a very, very low income area that have nice apartments, nice houses, affordable, and they've upkept the way they look for years and years, and they can afford to live there. They work in restaurants, and some are teachers, and I just certainly hope that we take into consideration that this could definitely be done within the limitations of a MU3 rather than a MU4. So I'll leave it with that unless anybody has any questions for me.
Thank you, Mr. Yates. Anyone from council have any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Yates. Appreciate it. Madam Clerk, any other people in the audience wishing to address the council on item 7B2?
No additional input for this item, Mayor.
Okay, sounds good. I just have a quick question actually for LaVon Lamy, our Deputy Human Services Director. And LaVon, the question I have is just regarding the workforce rates for the project. One of the things I know that we've talked about in the past is how we have, and I think Steve touched upon this during his presentation, there's a lot of stuff in Tempe, home ownership and rental, that's sort of at that very high end. There's also, a few developers who do a lot of niche work in sort of the very affordable housing product. But the big area where we have a really huge gap is in that workforce category, where we're kind of in the red and greatly need to increase our supply of housing to make sure that we're meeting existing need. I was just sort of curious, just from your perspective, are the rates that we're talking about with Dwell consistent with what you would consider to be workforce housing rates in terms of cost?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, based on the information that was provided by the attorney and the developers, the rates that they are proposing and the pro formas that they provided were consistent with the workforce rates between the 81 and 120% AMI. The current income charge that they were using are the 2020s, which are what we currently are on, and would be looking at, those would obviously be updated, a couple of times before this project was finished being built. But it definitely falls within the workforce range of affordability for rents and the household sizes that were being proposed.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from council, any questions for Levon? Great, thank you, Levon, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember
So
Cubie.
do you have an affordable housing impact statement, though, filled out for this project?
Say that, I'm sorry, is there an affordable housing impact statement filled out for this project?
The AHIS, did I miss it?
I guess
Mayor,
I'll
this is
ask.
Ryan Levesque.
Is,
Yes, there is a affordable housing impact statement that is provided in the attachments to the report.
Thank you. I missed it. Sorry about that.
oh, no worries, thank you, good question. Wonderful, all right, thank you, Levon, appreciate it. All right, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and just reiterate that this is only the first hearing. We're not taking any vote this evening. The second and final public hearing on this item is scheduled for February 10th, 2022. The next item under the section is 7B3, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the execution of a purchase agreement for the acquisition of portions of Belle Butte located at the southeast intersection of Interstate 10 and Broadway Road in Tempe, and authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute the related documents. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the City Council on this item? Madam Clerk, any cards on this item?
Mayor, no submissions for this item.
Okay, I will close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion? Yes, Councilmember Garland.
I just want to say that I'm excited about us being able to do this and to wrap our land acknowledgement resolution right around it. So thank you.
Absolutely, thank you so much. Any other council members, any other comments, questions? All right, hearing none, reiterate that the second and final public hearing of this item is scheduled for February 10th, 2022. The next item under this section is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a development and disposition agreement with South Pier Tempe Holdings LLC, an Arizona limited liability company for the project located at 1131 East Vista del Lago Drive in Tempe. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the City Council on this item?
Mayor, I do have two requests to speak. First is from Josh Wells.
Okay, sounds good. Mr. Wells, whenever you're ready.
Hello, Mayor and council members. My name is Josh Wells. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and I am the policy researcher for the Case Action Fund, an organization that fights alongside working families throughout the valley. In the past, we have opposed GIPLITs for luxury commercial developments. We have recently become aware the City Council is considering this development agreement, which would sell public land, create a special tax reimbursement, and include 5 GIPLITs with 8-year tax abatements. We strongly believe this development agreement is giving away too much, and our community is not getting enough back in return. A third of the residents in the zip code where this development will be built are living in poverty. While we appreciate the planned donation to the Tempe Coalition for Affordable Housing, we don't think this is enough, and we find it concerning that the development and disposition agreement being discussed today has no mention of affordable or even workforce housing being included in the project. Residents are in desperate need of affordable housing, and a development like this should be the first to directly provide it. We believe that luxury developments like this $1.8 billion project should not be receiving massive tax subsidies that shift the burden to other tax-paying residents. If we are to use tax incentives like GIPLITs, we think they should be reserved for projects such as those with substantial affordable housing components, grocery stores and food deserts, and drug rehab facilities, to give a few examples. We should also remind the council that as recently as 2018, the city of Tempe had to enter into a settlement due to what was deemed its unlawful use of giblets in the past. We urge the council to seriously consider whether entering into an agreement for 5 giblets is the best decision for Tempe's residents. In closing, we are very concerned by the trend of massive tax subsidies being given away to multi-million and billion-dollar development throughout the valley, and believe that in this case, the community benefits are just not enough. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wells. Appreciate it. Madam Clerk, you have another speaker?
Next speaker is Christine Miller.
Okay. Ms. Miller, go ahead whenever you're ready. Ms. Miller, are you there this evening? Okay. Madam Clerk, do you see Ms. Miller in the queue anywhere?
I'm checking with our WebEx host. Hold on one moment.
Okay.
She is unmuted. You might want to try to call her one more time. Christine Miller?
Yes, can
Oh.
you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
I apologize. I was having some technical difficulties. I am just here in support of Josh. We weren't sure how much time we would have, and he was able to read our full comment. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And Madam Clerk, just want to read it. We don't have any further cards.
Nothing additional from my end, Mayor.
Okay, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion? All right, sounds good. I don't either. The second and final public hearing of this item is scheduled for February 10th, 2022. Next up here, the last item under this section is 7B5, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 2, Division 2, Tempe City Code, Section 2-31, relating to the Judicial Advisory Board's operating procedures when considering appointments, reappointments, and qualification of judges. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the City Council on this item?
Mayor, I do have 2 requests that wanted to be read into the record.
Sure, please.
First is from David Gass, resident of Phoenix. David writes, I thank the Tempe Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council for considering this proposal. I am sorry I cannot appear in person this evening. Please do not take my absence as an indication of the important issue before you. Diversity, equity, and inclusion matter, particularly on the bench. I speak for myself this evening, but as a former Superior Court judge and the current Vice Chief Judge for the Arizona Court of Appeals, Division 1, I have seen and continue to see firsthand the importance of having our bench mirror our community. Not because a judge will rule differently, we all will follow the law, but to inspire public confidence in our legal system and to bring a diverse view to our courtrooms. I have worked on judicial diversity issues for many years. I work to ensure we have diverse applicants for openings. This year, we will put out a full-day workshop at the Arizona State Bar's annual convention to help diverse candidates navigate the application process. The workshop won the President's Award because of the information we will share. Last year, the Arizona Supreme Court moved forward on the issue, changing the Supreme Court's Commission on Minorities in the Judiciary to the Supreme Court's Commission on Diversity, Equality, and Justice, Code J as it is known, has a new charge and is moving forward along the lines of the proposal before you. I am a member of Code J and I will take this issue to the group. I hope to return to your next meeting with an approval from Code J, though I do not have it this evening because of time constraints. With that, I encourage you to move item 7B5 on your agenda forward. It will have the effect of moving the city of Tempe forward as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Next item comes from Austin Marshall. Austin, resident of Tempe, writes, judges collectively perform their roles better when they reflect the communities they are in and the people who appear before them. This is especially true for a city court, which is the most likely court an individual will have to interact with in the judicial system. The proposed change to how the Judicial Advisory Board may consider appointment and reappointment applications for Tempe's city judge positions maintains merit as the primary consideration, but it allows the board to consider an applicant holistically in the context of the community the applicant seeks to serve. Speaking individually as a member of the board, I wholeheartedly support the proposed change, and I respectfully ask the City Council to enact it. And with that, Mayor, that closes out the public comment.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Really appreciate it. I will close the public hearing. Any council members, any comments or discussion on this item? All right, hearing none, the second and final public hearing on this item is scheduled for February 10th, 2022. All right, next up, we're going to move to item C here. These following agenda items scheduled for second public hearing and final adoption were read and introduced on December 9th, 2021, with the exception of item 7C1, which was read and introduced on November 9th, 2021, and continued from December 9th, 2021. Votes on these items will be taken tonight. The first item under the section is 7C1, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance for a planned area development and development plan review for Generations Medical Center to increase landscaping and reduce the required parking for an existing 29,675 square foot medical office located at 6301 South Mcclintock Drive. The applicant is Gamage and Burnham, PLC. Would the applicant like to make a statement? I think Ms. Vaz is virtual this evening. Ms. Vaz, are you online?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, sorry. I was muted, sorry. I apologize.
No worry, happens to be all the
Mr.
time, so.
Yeah, no problem. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, for your record, Manjula Vaz, law firm of Gamage and Burnham, 2 North Central Phoenix, 85004. I just have a very short statement. I appreciate the council. Last time council asked us to work with Rosa, and Ryan and I have tried working with Mohammed and the mosque, and we appreciate all their time. Try to craft some stipulations that would work for all the parties. Ryan and Rosa have done an amazing job and a lot of work, and the staff has a stipulation that I believe is in your packet that we support. And while it may not be perfect for everyone, I think it'll move us forward. So on behalf of Generations, we support that stipulation that the staff is bringing forward, and we would urge the council to support it. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Vaz. First let me go to the public hearing portion here. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the City Council on this item? Mr. Zubair, please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the City Council.
Mr. Mayor, I brought somebody else if I need more than 3 minutes, so thank you, I appreciate it. First of all, I congratulate you and entire city of Tempe during this MLK celebration week. We come a long way, and this is probably our 20th plus celebration. There was a time in Arizona that some cities were not allowing MLK holiday. So we come a long way. In keeping of the spirit of MLK, representation and articulation of a marginalized group to a council that I am very, very pleased to address you. Most of you I know, we personally know each other, friends, children, we live together. Tempe is a small place. But we're delighted where we are. We have like 4 women, respected women as council member, and minority mayor and a minority, another council member male. So we made a lot of progress. But there are some ends that we need a better articulation, as somebody was saying earlier, in court system and legal system. So there are 2 issues in front of us. Before I get to those issues, let me acknowledge, first of all, the staff since last council meeting. Rosa has done a wonderful job in coordinating with us. We have been back and forth. We really appreciate her leadership. And Manjula was pretty open, and other staff members were pretty open. But we had a technical breakdown. And I refer to, if you can display the draft document that's for mayor to sign, I requested to be displayed if that's possible.
Mayor, we do have it up in WebEx.
Okay, yes. Thank you. So first of all, we had this issue. There are 2 issues here, Mayor. First is an issue with public plat, and the second is a zoning issue. What you are addressing here is a zoning issue. You're trying to rezone a property from PCC1 to PAD. So I have brief comments on that. The public plat that's being used here, if you go down a little bit, whoever is displaying this public plat, please go down, leave it there. So it's item number 4, the stipulation there. If you look at line 4 or line 5, it says the minimum parking shall be the parking spaces designated on lot 1 of TDMC renovation plat, except for eastern 204 feet of said lot. 204 feet is the back portion of the property that we believe, and we have checked with the city, and city has already taken position on this. There's a letter from city, December 22nd, 2005, written to the owner. The property is not divided. Okay. We have verbally confirmed with Ryan, and that was the comments I had based last time when I was here. Those were the comments. And 2 and 4 is exactly where we think there's a lot line. So this wording is correct. But problem is with the plat. The plat they're saying here is not a public plat. It is not a Tempe City Council approved re-subdivision. So we're dealing with 2 issues, public plat and zoning. So in public plat, we had suggested them that there may be way forward with it. If you don't use this 76438, if you use 66417, that is legally approved plat by the council and the mayor in the city of Tempe. And that makes it roughly around close to 2.4 or some acres like that of that plat, lot 1. So we had technically a breakdown there that we insist on using the plat that we believe is a legal plat approved by the council. Already city of Tempe has taken position on it. So that is, and the second issue is the pad. And I think on a pad you already answered our concern and our questions. And that says, if you go back up, ma'am, on number 1 of this document, web operator, yes, please. If you go up number 1, and you already say here, and my English is not that great, maybe Mayor can help me. You said by signing the property owner shall sign a waiver of rights and remedies form. By signing the form, the owner voluntarily waives any rights to claim compensation for diminution of property value under this. I just want to bring to your attention that it's not only that owner is not a sole owner of the PCC1. We are an integrated PCC1 site. We are 3 owners there. So if you are acknowledging that that particular owner has a devaluing the property by going from 189 to 107 parking, it makes sense. But what we are saying is that there's a residual impact on us as far as zoning is concerned. But our technical issue is with the plat, and for that reason, we humbly request, besides all the effort, it's not a part of our culture, we are very accommodating people. We love to work with you to find a solution, but that's a technical issue. We don't want a survey that's recorded in county or any survey. There's no such a law that you take any survey from the county. You can record anything in county. We talked to county, they said they'll record anything that we sent in and use that for the zoning process. We think that's not fair. And another request I have is that since the owner is already, and Manjula is listening here, and the city, I believe city attorney is also here, that you already gone to 204 at a property line, 204 feet. Mm-hmm. Will you drop the variance appeal that you already litigating against mosque or defending against mosque? So that's another question for you, because you already taken a different position here. But my humble request to all the council members is that, yes, we don't have perfect articulation. We are a marginalized community. On the edges, somebody, we believe in a plain English, is just trying to grab land. And we have this sad history in our country of grabbing land. And in this case, we ask you, there's acknowledgement in this document. This document says itself, the truth. 204 is, we believe, is a 66417 plat that's approved by council, mayor. We had no issue with that. Okay. So if we can work something out, we'll be very glad to follow the leadership instructions. With that, if there's any question for me.
Thank you, Mr. Zubair. Appreciate it. Let me, I'm going to defer to our city attorney, Judy Bauman, if she wants to kind of address some of the issues. They're definitely much more of a technical nature than I can, so.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. We are legally obligated to refer to the plat that was most recently recorded in time. And we understand that there may be some disputes ongoing among the property owners there. The proposed action, as we understand it, is really to remedy parking issues and would not have a direct bearing on lot lines or any dispute or claims involving the plat itself. And I would say that the planned area development amendment as proposed appears that it would moot the litigation that the city of Tempe is involved in that was referenced by Mr. Zubair.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Quick
Mr.
question. I was
Mayor,
going
may
to ask.
I add one?
Sure, I'll give you 30 seconds, and if Dr. Minhouse wants to come up too, I just have to make sure we hold to the time. So, but please, Mr. Zubair.
As a respectfully addition to what General Lady said, that the plat that's recorded and that you feel obligated to follow was in July 2005. You have written a letter, and Ryan is on call, he can probably confirm it, on December 22nd, 2005, during the transaction of the property from TDMC to Generation, refuting the way the legal description of the plat is there. And we provided a whole engineering history, the engineering firm that was involved to staff, that how it was supposed to be lot line adjustment, and then how they backed out correctly because there is a title restrictions in the previous plat. They couldn't do it, and we provided all that communication, etc., to the staff.
Okay.
And it has been already acknowledged by the city that the property is not divided. And some of the council member may also know because we had this extensive discussion with many of you already. So thank you very much.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Zubair.
So I ask for a no vote and not approve it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address the city council on this item? Madam Clerk, is there anyone else that wishes to speak to the council on this item?
Nothing additional for this item, Mayor.
Okay. Just want to check too. Dr. Minhouse, do you request to speak, or are you okay? Okay, just wanted to make sure. So thank you. I'll close the public hearing then. Council, any comments or discussion on item 7C1?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to say something.
Yes, please, Councilmember Cubey.
Thank you. I don't think this is necessarily a solution. On Dr. Minhas and Mohammed, Mr. Zubair, we respect you so much and your contributions to the community. And I do want to make a motion to approve the Generations Medical Center Planned Area Development, or PAD, along with those staff recommended stipulations. So I would like to move to approve, but it is crucial to note, and I want to add this for the record, that the proposed PAD approval serves only to impact the site's minimum parking requirements and has no bearing on earlier subdivision plats, property ownership, or any private agreements or restrictions that are currently in place. And I'd like to also say that in addition, approving this change tonight, should the council approve this change to parking requirements, should not in any way be interpreted as supporting either party that's involved in litigation. So I would just like to add that. I mean, not to the formal motion. My formal motion is just to approve the PAD with the staff recommended stipulations, but I wanted to make that notation for the record.
Thank you, Councilmember Cubey. Really appreciate it. There's been a motion by Councilmember Cubey. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Keating. Any comments or questions from council?
Mayor?
Yes, please.
Councilmember Kuby said it pretty well. I would just like to thank staff coming up with this and, and reiterating that this isn't meant to sway any sort of future litigation or pending litigation. It's part of the process that we have to follow with the legal language that we have to include. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Keating. Anyone else from council? Any comments or questions?
Hey, Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. And, I just want to, I appreciate Councilmember Cubey's comments, and I definitely echo them in the sense of a couple of things here. First and foremost, I know we postponed this at our last meeting, and with the intent for everybody to sit down in good faith and well intend to try to come to a better resolution. And I just want to say thank you so much to all the parties involved, and Ryan and Manjula, Muhammad and Rosa. I think you did exactly what we would have expected you to do. And you are all ultimately professionals, all very well respected within this organization and in this community. And I just want to say thank you for taking that time, your energy, and the work to really try to sit down and find something that we could all agree upon. And I understand sometimes that just doesn't happen. We don't always get to the place where we want to go, but I do believe that the intent was genuine, and I'm really grateful for that too. And I'm okay with moving forward with this, but also to know and to state for the record that this PAD amendment is only to impact, like Councilmember Cubey said, the minimum parking requirements, and not the plat, not the lot lines, or any pending litigation. And I know it was mentioned earlier too by Mohammed about our intent to moving forward with the appeal. And I'm okay in the future if we do move forward with the dismissal of that appeal. And I just wanted to put that on the record. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Arredondo Savage. Anyone else? Comments or questions?
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Navarro?
Yeah, thank you. Now, and exactly, it's been said, Councilmember Kuby said it well, and agree with all the statements that have been said. But yeah, absolutely, Mohammed and Rosa and team, I know that you guys have worked very hard at this, and this is a very extremely complicated situation. Obviously, we all understand, and we want to make sure that, you know, at the end of the day, the result will hopefully get done in a way that I'm hoping that it's possible, that we all can get where we're at, where we want to be, and move away from this topic. And however this works out, I hope this case does work out in that direction. And obviously, I think this council does support one of our community leaders in making sure that him and the mosque will, hopefully get to a place where we know that it's going to be beneficial for everyone and get it recorded the proper way. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Anyone else from the council? Any further comments or questions? I would just say the same thing. I mean, honestly, echoing a lot of the comments that were made by Councilmember Cubey, Councilmember Arredondo Savage, I completely concur with everything you said. So there's really probably no need for me to repeat everything verbatim, but I really wholeheartedly appreciate your comments, and also want to say, thank you to, Mr. Zubair and Dr. Minhas, and as well all of our staff members, who I know really have worked diligently in the last few weeks since the continuation to try to get to a place where we're comfortable. And I know sometimes that doesn't always happen exactly the way that we would like, but I just wanted to acknowledge the efforts on both sides, frankly, to try to come together and figure something out and to work in good faith. I know everyone absolutely did that, but also just to reiterate, the comments that were made earlier about how this decision is isolated to certain things and not meant to be connected to others, and clearly not to sort of take sides in an act of pending litigation. So just wanted to make sure I put that out there. Anyone else? Any further comments? All right, hearing none. See, there was a motion by Councilmember Cubey. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Garland. Any further comments? Okay, hearing none, please vote. Vice Mayor Keating? Vice Mayor Keating? Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubey?
Aye.
Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
I'll try one more time. Vice Mayor Keating? All right, that item passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Keating absent. Right. Next up is, the next item under the section is 7C2, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance approving an amendment to development agreement, an exchange agreement, and escrow instructions for city-owned real property located on 5 parcels at the southeast corner of First Street and Rio Salado Parkway, and providing for the conveyance of certain real property in connection with the realignment of First Street, and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement and related documents with Verde Opportunity Tempe LLC and Verde Opportunity Heath LLC to effect such transaction. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the City Council on this item?
I have no input on my end, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on this item? All right, seeing none. Council, any comments or discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Cubie.
The land use attorney is not going to be presenting tonight?
She can. She's actually right here. I see her. Ms. Riddell, if you'd like to come forward. Councilmember Cubie, are you requesting a short presentation or?
Well, and then, yeah, a short presentation, because in the interests of transparency and for those that are tuning in who haven't seen any information about this, I think we should have a short presentation.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember Cubie. Ms. Riddell?
Of course, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm hopeful staff can pull up the brief PowerPoint that we sent earlier. For your records, it's Wendy Riddell with the law firm Barry Riddell, 6750 East Camelback. My pleasure to be here this evening on behalf of Verde Investments. Ultimately, this is part of the overall Carvana headquarters that we have been processed and approved through the City Council as part of the zoning application. I appreciate that. I'm a lawyer. I can keep talking endlessly, but it's probably helpful to have some graphics.
Being in politics, I understand that.
Wonderful, thank you. Is this something I advance, or are you? That would be wonderful, thank you. So I suspect, Mayor and Council, most people here know that Carvana is a nationally recognized, publicly traded company with a market cap of $50 billion with a B dollars. But it is still locally owned and headquartered in Tempe, and I think something that Tempe is very lucky to have here as part of their culture. It's an industry leader in car sales. Next slide, please. So this is part of a previous agreement that was actually done back in 2013, part of a larger development agreement at the time. It was overall intended to help develop a larger area, everything you see that is here highlighted in the yellow. And you can see now, fast forward to 2021, it was actually a quite successful agreement if you look back to 2013. All the ultimate redevelopment that was able to be accomplished, and this is kind of the tail end of that. Next slide. So as part of this, there are a number of community benefits that you'll see. Probably the biggest one, and I'll show you a graphic shortly, is the dedication ultimately and construction of First Street and the improvements that go with it, including relocating water, sewer lines, ultimately having dedicated bike lanes, intersection improvements and a traffic signal, and ultimately providing a north driveway into the Verde yard. Of course, the city will substantiate all of these expenses as we go along and verify all of them. In the event the construction costs are less than the purchase price, Verde will remit the difference to the city. Probably also important to point out here, back in that original agreement, there was a GIPLET contemplated, and that is not something that we are pursuing here today. Next slide. So this just shows graphically what moving the access point from First Street here really accomplishes. You can see that existing location, it's about 505 feet from Priest Drive. It really is too close to safely signalize and is not very helpful to ultimately develop here at a gateway site for Tempe. The new location, the proposed new street access, incidentally, we are giving additional real estate for First Street to be constructed here, about 25,000 square feet. But you can see it puts that signal, it is roughly the quarter-mile mark. So it makes it a safe place to be able to signalize, ultimately provide connectivity to the north and overall development area. Next slide. And then, of course, the best part of all of this is what comes with it. The council here, I think, already knows because you were approved the ultimate zoning and site plan for the Carvana campus. So the Carvana campus will be here, again, headquartered in Tempe. I've got one more slide, if you would. This is what it would look like internally, quite a bit of open space area activated for the community and the campus. Next slide. And that's everything, Mr. Mayor. Happy to answer any questions that you or the council may have.
Thank you, Ms. Riddell. I think I'm going to go to Councilmember Adams first. Councilmember Adams? I'll try one more time. Councilmember Adams? All right. Anyone else on council? Any other comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead.
Yes, Councilmember Adams. Go ahead. Then I'll go to Councilmember QB right after you.
okay, I kind of wanted to talk or ask Ms. Riddell some questions. It's my understanding that the Carvana project is all pre-wired for electric vehicles in both parking garages. Is that true?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilwoman Adams, that is true. So as part of this, I think Carvana really sees EV charging as a way in the direction that a lot of cars are going. I think they're the largest reseller of electric vehicles. And so in both garages, they immediately have 10 charging stations that are being installed, but they are effectively, I'm sure the word isn't really pre-wiring, but they're pre-engineering and ensuring that all the infrastructure is in place. So ultimately, those garages will be able to immediately become electric vehicle capable.
Okay, thank you. And it's also my understanding that it is solar ready. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Adams, yes, it is. It's they have gone through the effort to engineer everything to put in, again, the sort of infrastructure in place so that it is solar ready when the time is right.
Okay. Okay. And then another question I had about bike lanes on First Street that are dedicated. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Thank you again. Yes, there will actually be, as part of this, as First Street being redeveloped, and of course, they don't exist today, but you will have dedicated bike lanes on both sides. That I think it's a lovely thing because it's part of Tempe's overall bike master plan, so it will be in compliance with that bike master plan and bring First Street into compliance with it.
Okay. Okay. Well, and you have also some green space. Is that correct?
We do, yes, Councilwoman. I think if they actually even go back in the slides or two, you can see there's quite a bit of internal green space to the campus. When I say internal, I mean it's not on Rio Salado. It is still, accessible from that street to the south.
And are you going to have a tree canopy around the building?
Councilman Adams, there's quite a bit of trees, quite a bit of landscaping. I will tell you along Rio Salado, we are somewhat hampered because of the power lines. So we worked through all of that at the time of site plan. Staff and frankly the council has signed off on the landscape plan. But yes, there's quite a bit of landscaping working through those public utilities that exist in place.
Okay. And this is a multi-million-dollar company. Is that correct?
Actually, it is not. It is a billion-dollar company with a B.
Oh, okay. I need to turn the M into a B. Well, I love Carvana. I think the products are amazing, and I think it's the way of the future. I'm very excited that electric vehicles will be included in both parking garages and that we can just slowly, as we turn to all electric vehicles, slowly use that and be able to charge them in the parking garages. Thank you for your presentation tonight and for the clarification.
Thank you.
I will be supporting this project this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams. We go to Councilmember QB.
Thank you so much. I do have to say that I do have some heartburn about not so much the purchase price, but that purchase price is going directly into creating the infrastructure that you would need to create the project. But I could live with that, with a more substantial public benefit. And I believe that when we had the first hearing, there was, I think, 4 members of council that expressed an interest in solar. And you came back, and I do appreciate you coming back to say the building would be solar ready. And you said when the time is right, there would be solar deployed. And I can think of no better time than now, for the timing is right to have solar deployed. I also think about Carvana and how innovative the company is. It's a national company, billions of dollars worth, and it's located in the most innovative city in Arizona and associated with Arizona State University in the neighborhood of ASU, which is the most innovative university in the world, and in fact has the most solar of any campuses across the world. So we have a lot that we can hang our hat on. And so there you have Carvana, which is very much in the flight path, and people flying over our city will see that building. And what better way to express the innovative spirit of our city, the innovation and expertise of our university, and frankly, the innovative spirit of Carvana, than to have solar on the rooftop and solar in the parking garage to reduce your costs and to really respond to the climate crisis that we're in. Now, we know there is a solar investment tax credit. It was extended back in 2020. So it amounts to a 26% tax credit that can be accelerated over the course of 5 years. So I would contend and could prove that the time is right to adopt solar. And I'm kind of disappointed you didn't come to us with the solar installed. And I even heard ideas expressed that you could even spell out the name Carvana with solar panels on the roof, and that would be seen by people flying over our city. You've made a really strong case that Carvana, this building, will be the gateway to Tempe. When you come from the north and when you come from the 202 Priest, you'll see this development is one of your first markers that you're in the city of Tempe. And so I think to have solar here is profoundly important. So I would like to make a motion, and I'm seeking council approval, that we stipulate that thank you for the solar readiness, but that we have solar deployed in the building to at least 60% of the roof surface area of the buildings. So I would put that proposal forward to my council colleagues who also previously expressed an interest in seeing solar adoption on this building.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Councilmember Cubie. So there's a motion on the floor from Councilmember Cubie to ask Ms. Burdell, whatever, to go back and add solar to the building and speak with the client. Is there a desire to have a second? And one more time, I'll just check whatever. Motion made by Councilmember Cubie on that item to add solar. Is there a second? Okay, that motion dies for lack of a second. Anything else, Councilmember Cubie, or any other members of council? Yes, Councilmember Garland.
I just want to say the slide that you had on where you showed your internal view, I think it just screams for some kind of indigenous artwork or shade structures on that property. So I just want to point that out. I'm looking at all that concrete that you have around the grass. Would be great if there was some type of indigenous local designs there. I'd love to see that, but just a thought.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Garland. Any of the council members' comments or questions? All right. Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead then and see if there's anyone else in the audience here. We have no one else, Madam Clerk, wishing to speak?
Nothing additional, Mayor.
Okay. Hearing that and hearing that there's nothing else, is there a motion on item 7C2?
So moved, Mayor.
Moved by Councilmember Navarro. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Garland. I'll wait till we pull up the voting screen. There we go. Please vote. Okay, I'll do roll calls for everybody else. Councilmember Adams,
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie,
No.
Councilmember Navarro.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. That item passes 6-1 with Councilmember Cubie voting no.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. All right. The next item under this section is 7C3, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt a resolution authorizing a general plan density map from medium density to high density urban core, an ordinance for a zoning map amendment to MU4, and an amended planned area development overlay, and approve a development plan review for a new 7-story mixed-use development consisting of 200 units and 1,036 square feet of commercial uses for First and Farmer, located at 206 South Farmer Avenue. The applicant is Sender Associates Chartered. Would the applicant like to make a statement?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Darren Sender, Sender Associates, 464 South Farmer in Tempe. I understand the presentation is not needed tonight. I think you saw everything you wanted to possibly ever see last time. But I do want to make a statement that at the DRC, we had added a few stipulations to the project regarding affordable housing, the low-income housing component, the building height, and what was it? As well as, the landscape maintenance at the request of the neighborhood. Since then, we have, at that last hearing, we had an agreement put together for the neighborhood, and that included multiple other stipulations that we were willing to add. Ultimately, the neighborhood didn't sign an agreement, didn't come to an agreement, but we went ahead and we're adding those stipulations anyway. So we'd like to do that tonight. We have, let me see if I can, we lost it. I can pull them up on the screen here so you can see them. They were finalized by staff this afternoon. Yeah, page 20, 21. Well, these stipulations regard our agreement at the request of the neighborhood, Mr. Yates in particular, to pay for up to $100,000, 9 speed, they're calling them cushions, speed cushions, to be placed in the Riverside neighborhood. And these would be, the money would be remitted to the city prior to our obtaining building permits, or prior to our ability to obtain building permits. The second major stipulation that we are happy to add tonight is it's a not to exceed amount of $15,000 for parking passes for the community. And talking with Ryan and Shelley, who have done an amazing job and were very, very helpful with this, we've added that stipulation as well to this. So can you go to, or is it up on mine or yours? Okay, page 20, I believe, slide 20. Something like that. 21. There we go. So this is the language. I have it in writing. Ryan has copies of this as well, but just to cut to the chase, $100,000, these were amended just today, $100,000 remitted to the city. And it's a prerequisite to obtaining building permits for the project. And obviously, the placement, the location, the approval of those speed cushions is all up to the neighborhood and the city. The second is regarding those residential permit parking programs. What we would do would be to provide the city with $15,000 to allow people to basically get free parking permits for their the parking permit program that exists on the streets and any future permit parking that's going to exist in that neighborhood. Staff, and Ryan can explain if you need to, but staff talked about having those permits for existing people to get reimbursed, people that are currently using them, or even new people that sign on to that parking program. The third addition would be that we would stipulate to include artwork within the retail space that reflects the history of Tempe and the Riverside neighborhood. This is something we agreed to from the beginning. This is a great idea. The neighborhood is very historic and it's very important in a location. So in that commercial area and that retail space, we would love to have something in there interpretive to explain, kind of the context of the location of the area. The next one is that we will include in all residential leases that parking in the neighborhood is prohibited except on Farmer Avenue. And quite honestly, the parking pass program prohibits a lot of that anyway, as well as there's no parking on 1st Street or 5th Street. So there's not a lot of opportunities really for our residents or their guests to park there. And there's a 800 space parking garage going in across the street. So, but we're going to do it anyway. We want to make sure we're good neighbors and put that stipulation on. Next is, in conjunction with that, we want to make sure that they understand there's various transit options. We think they live down here, they're going to live in this location because there are various transit options. I think that the residents will be the kind of people that want to live in this downtown and understand that the light rail and the streetcar and the bus service and the orbit and all of the bike routes and everything that will be available. Not to mention, just the charging stations in the garage, the zip car, the shared parking or shared carring usage will be implemented as well. And then lastly, we will, again, at the request of the neighborhood, we will create a construction access plan that restricts the large construction truck vehicles and employee parking from using residential streets in the Riverside neighborhood during construction, specifically to require large construction vehicles to use the major streets, so like Farmer, Ash, 5th Street, 1st Street, Rio Salado. We've seen a lot of construction, 1st Street, Farmer, a little bit on 5th Street. We've seen, my office is right there, right down the street. We've seen what those large trucks can do, and we agree with Mr. Yates that this is something that we should do and we're going to do. So these are the stipulations that we are adding tonight to the project. And can we go one slide? Oh, go one slide back. There we go. That's okay. The second stipulation that was added previously, which is stipulation number 4 in today's staff report, Mr. Yates asked us to add the language that says with experience maintaining commercial landscaping on there. So professional landscape maintenance. Obviously, the building is landscape. It's about landscape. It's about its connection to the land, and we want to make sure that that is maintained appropriately. So we're going ahead and adding that change to the stipulation that was added last time. Okay, can you go back? Thanks. Okay, so that is it. That was it for the stipulations, and we hope that you feel the same way. We would love to see this project approved and get under construction soon.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Adams.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve this project. I think it's awesome.
Sounds good. Can I ask you,
Mayor, I do have some
can I
public
ask you,
comment,
Councilmember Adams, just to withdraw your motion for a second, because I still have to take public input?
Oh, okay, I apologize.
So, no worries, no worries. I want to first go to Mr. Yates, who's here to speak on this item. Mr. Yates, please come up, state your name and residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just for the record, my name is Philip Yates, and I'm the president for the Riverside Neighborhood Association. And this has been a very long process. I would like to say to everybody that is in my neighborhood that has come to me and with all of their concerns and everything with regard to the height and its density and everything, and I can totally empathize with all of that because we are living in a city that is landlocked, and this is the biggest thing that's ever actually probably going to be appropriate or passed tonight. And I would like to just thank everybody that is in the city, all the divisions in the city that have worked with me for future reference on anything. Departments, various departments during the whole process of getting things approved, anything with regard to future developments that would have an impact on our neighborhood. And as to the developer and what their agreeances are on the stipulations that I laid out very specifically during the whole process of this, I'd like to thank them for saying, okay, we'll definitely stick to those stipulations. And with that, I'll close unless anybody else would have questions for me.
Thank you, Mr. Yates. Anyone have any comments or questions for Mr. Yates? Excellent. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, I believe you have 2 additional speaker cards.
That's affirmative, Mayor. First speaker card comes from Janet Darcy, resident of Tempe. Janet writes, as a resident of the Riverside neighborhood, I strongly object to the proposed First and Farmer project. This project does not fit with my neighborhood. Although the design is nice, the 7-story apartment building overshadows and encroaches on the much smaller residents in the area. Yes, the project is on the edge of the neighborhood, but is this to become the defining feature and height for the neighborhood? Most of you on the council ran on campaign promises to protect neighborhoods. If you approve this project, you will be destroying mine. My question to you is, did you lie just to get elected, or are you just protecting your neighborhood? I've already lost my sunrise due to a project to the east of me. Will I also lose my sunset, or will I be forced to move? Next item comes from Merrill Darcy, also resident of Tempe. Merrill writes, I commend the council members for their vision and insights for the inception of the Smith Innovation Hub, the Banyan Apartments in a former industrial wasteland, the Broadway mixed-use residential, and most recently the acquisition of the Apache Plaza for a major undertaking of much-needed affordable housing. These were all milestones. The First and Farmer need your support as well. However, it is misguided and inappropriately referred to as a public benefit. On the contrary, it is neither. Notwithstanding requiring a zoning change, a general plan amendment, and public subsidy for a meager 20 affordable housing units, in addition to maximum mixed-use designation for a small 1,000 square foot concession stand, and only to justify the needed increase is height and density. This again is an advantage for the developer and not a public benefit. This is just another mixed-use project that needs the incentives, but adds more commercial space to the already bloated vacant commercial spaces on the ground floors of other mixed-use apartments. These will never be leased at market rent, and reducing the rents will lower the valuations, which will reset the loans. The rents cannot be reduced, encouraging more vacant retail space. Affordable housing is a social problem, and social problems require social solutions, not developer incentives offering 20 units. Hardly worth any public consideration. In fact, if this project was within the standards of the R3 PAD, the height and density would be reduced and this developer would need 100 affordable units to be profitable. With the increased traffic from the present 4 Farmer Arts projects, the additional 200 apartments will only add to the misery of traversing an extremely narrow street, either as pedestrians or motorists, with those pesky e-scooters, even with a reduction of parking requirements. The developer's traffic study is clearly devoid of indicating any adjacent large developments within the surrounding area. Parking spaces for tenants will not be included in the rent and will not be assigned. The traffic and parking congestion will now be unmanageable. Public benefit? Not here. The rents are forecast to be in excess of $2.50 per square foot, or $1,800 to $2,000 for a 1-bedroom apartment. This is equivalent to rent blocks away from New York Central Park with 200 times the job market. Which would you prefer as a young and mobile adult? The census revealed Tempe's population is stable with little projected growth. With an already saturated apartment market and with more being planned, Tempe does not need any more apartment clusters in a concentrated area. Tempe needs to zone more land and create buildable parcels throughout the city, facilitate lower permit costs, and streamline building approvals to allow more affordable housing. You asked for our votes, you asked for our support with your campaign promises, and we can also vote you out. Mayor, that ends the public input for this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Really appreciate it. Let me go back to Councilmember Adams. I know since she had a comment earlier.
Yes, once again, I support the project. I think it's much necessary. We need places for people to live in the city. And,
but actually, Councilmember Adams, really quick, I made a mistake. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to tell everybody there are 2 votes required for this project for approval. And so the first vote is actually going to be on the general plan density map amendment. So I just wanted to make sure that I said that, but Councilmember Adams, keep going.
Yes, as I said, we need places for people to live. We have a horrible housing shortage. And so I will be making a motion to approve.
Okay. So it's been moved by Councilmember Adams to approve the general plan density map amendment. Do I have a second? Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Adams. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Garland. Any further comments or questions?
Hey, Mayor, this is Robin. I have something.
Yes, Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. I just want to say thanks for everybody for bringing this stuff together. I got to tell you, I mean, I think this project looks so cool, and the concept is, I think, one that so many people can get behind. So, you know, hats off to Wexford and to Architecton for your work and pulling this together and putting something really cool, different, and unique in Tempe. I like that idea. I mean, I think that's really great. But obviously, I think my next comments are probably going to be one of those that you're not going to be surprised to hear. And that's going to go back to the request for this very large density increase. I mean, currently right now, that space is at medium density, which is about 15 dwelling units per acre. And they are asking for more than 65 dwelling units per acre. Actually, this project is 130 dwelling units per acre. And I cannot, and I just cannot get my arms around trying to justify this general plan amendment change, which I believe incorporated the promised buffer to the neighborhoods from the downtown area. This is triple what was ever intended to be there, based on a vote from our residents. And I intend to honor that. As much as I love this project, and I think the concept is really cool, I really love the way it looks. I like the way it looked originally when we talked about it. And it's just a really big struggle. 7 stories in a buffer zone is just something I cannot get behind as much as I would like to. So I will be voting no on this agenda item tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Arredondo Savage. Any other further comments from council?
I'll speak, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Cubie.
Thank you so much. I remember years ago, we had a project that was brought to us on Farmer and University that was going to be 13 stories. And John Kane from Architecton spoke against it because he felt like it wasn't in the context of the neighborhood. And I agree with that assessment. And we all, I guess, voted that development down. This to me, though, is different. The height is barely higher than what was already approved. And they've shown that through the schematic drawings. And the fact that we're bringing affordable housing, and 20 units may not seem like much, but 20 units is way more than we have right now. And they're actually affordable housing units, not workforce housing, but affordable housing units. And that's between 60 and 80% of area median income. And these units aren't something less than, they're not, you know, linoleum where there's tile or granite. You know, these are all high quality housing units that will be available for lower income residents. And to me, this is the kind of project that we want to see. And it's the kind of public engagement that you hope for with a developer. I have to salute you, Darren and Sam. I know that sometimes the process was difficult because, you know, people care about their neighborhoods as they should, but you got involved very, very early in the process, even I think before you approached community development, to talk to the neighbors. And while they didn't ultimately come and support and do a rah-rah support of the project, they negotiated with you in good faith and got some agreements. And though they weren't able to come to endorse the project, you honored those commitments, which you didn't have to, but you honored those commitments. And we have a much better project for it with more traffic calming and more neighborhood friendly elements than were there before. So I want to salute the Yates family for being such strong advocates for their neighborhoods. And I also want to salute the developers in this instance. And, you know, it's not often we have developers who are willing to work with the neighbors and really hash things out and iron things out. They may not be comfortable sometimes for any of us, but I think we see a much better project as a result. Now, I said before in the first reading that it's very rare that I look at a project that is aesthetically pleasing, that I think is characteristic of the neighborhood, and this project is beautiful. And so I'm really pleased to throw my weight behind the project, and I'm very glad that we will have affordable housing in the downtown area, and let's see more of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cubie. Either of the council members, any comments? Okay, I guess I'll offer some quick comments as well. And actually, Councilmember Cubie's comments really well encapsulated mine. But first of all, I wanted to thank Phil Yates. I mean, you know, someone who's a fifth-generation Tempean and someone who deeply cares about his neighborhood at Riverside Sunset. And we all know being a neighborhood chair is very, very challenging. And honestly, he does it with such dignity and grace. And I just wanted to say thank you for your very kind words about our staff and all the different departments. They do work exceptionally hard, but it's made a lot easier when we have great residents to work with like you. So I just wanted to say thank you. Really, really appreciate it. I also, wanted to thank too, Sam Gordon and Wexford and Darren Sender and John Kane. I remember talking to many residents years ago who said one of the frustrations they would regularly have is that a developer would come to them and the project is 98, 99% complete. And then you drop that in front of the resident and say, hey, what do you think about this? And then the minute they say, we're concerned about a couple of items, people go, well, what do you want me to do? And it's like, well, I thought you came to ask me for my opinion. But the fact that you, months in advance, began to have the conversations with the neighborhood and Mr. Yates about this project really speaks a lot to your integrity and, frankly, the work that you do in this community and across the country. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. I wish, frankly, all of the developers in our community would take that kind of approach in really trying to get the neighborhood involved first and not just simply coming, only doing the bare minimum when it comes to neighborhood meetings and just sort of hoping a project gets through on second public hearing, but actually really thoughtfully reach out to the neighborhood chair and people in the neighborhood who are clearly stakeholders and longtime residents. So I just really appreciate that effort and the work that you've done on that. So that I just had to make sure I put that out there. When it comes to a couple of quick items, one, to echo a lot of what Councilmember Cubie said, the affordable housing I think is a huge deal. To have that in the middle of the downtown. We talked about this in an earlier project. The downtown really is the amenity. And the fact that we're going to have people living down here, in those 20 units that they agreed to a 30-year covenant on, where I know the GIPLET rate only by state statute goes up to 25 years. And when we went back and asked them, could you actually tack on 5 more years and get to 30, they frankly didn't hesitate to do that. And I think that's huge because honestly, they're losing money in that equation by tacking on 5 additional years that they can't really cover using that rate. So I wanted to say thank you as well for that. I think it's critically important. And we talk all the time about kind of the use of GIPLETs, and I've talked about my aversion to using them in a lot of situations, but I do think that one of the areas where they're absolutely warranted is the creation of new affordable housing and things such as historic preservation. And so the fact that you're including the affordable housing units that will have a covenant on them for 30 years is critically important to me, and I think something to be applauded. Quick comment though when it comes to a comment that was made about apartments in general. There was an article that appeared in the Arizona Republic about probably maybe 7 to 10 business days or so ago that talked about for every one apartment that people are looking for in this state, there are 20 people who are looking to apply to get into that apartment. There are more and more people living in apartments these days. There are more and more people, frankly, deferring buying a home. There are people like myself, as mayor of the city at 43 years old, who live in an apartment in downtown because that was the best decision for me and what made the most sense financially and the quick proximity to the office. And so we have a major housing shortage, frankly, in this state. We have it in Tempe. We have it in the state. We need 11,000, 12,000 more units of affordable housing by the time we get to 2040 just to keep pace with current demand. And we need other units in that market rate mix as well, because we're going to have more and more people coming here to the state of Arizona. And it's not an option for us to just simply say, stop moving here. I have people who say that to me. I wish they would just stop moving here. Well, that's not going to happen. They're going to continue to come because they recognize how great of a place the state of Arizona is, and even more specifically, the city of Tempe, which has been my home for the last 19 years. So I think that, I think that the change, frankly, from the office building that was basically approved before, that was more or less of the same exact height and massing as this, was a smart choice, given the fact that the beam is across the street and is going to provide a lot of those jobs and a lot of the business element. Those people who are going to be working at the beam also need a place to live, and they might be able to find that place to live right across the street at First and Farmer. So I think that was a smart change. Also, in terms of just the general traffic, I appreciate the $100,000 for the speed humps. I appreciate the permit parking as well. But I think that, it's also to be noted that many times apartments actually have much reduced traffic from a lot of commercial office space. With commercial office space, as we all know, when people are coming and going at all different points of the day and going to meetings and going to lunch and going to other meetings, there's a lot of traffic on those streets. But typically when it comes to a residential use, you have a person who leaves at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and they come home at 5 or 6, and that might be all the car trips you see in and out of that building on a daily basis. So I think that the switch from the office product to the apartment product was actually a really smart choice and fit really nicely with the neighborhood and frankly with the beam that's right across the street. So I just wanted to say, and look, just also speaking, everything's been said about the aesthetics. I think it is a truly beautiful project. There are times when I look at certain things and go, gosh, I just wish we could get something that's actually doesn't look like a run-of-the-mill apartment complex that someone could have pulled out of a book that they circulate all over the country. And this one, clearly, there was time and effort and real thought that went into this to make sure that it fit the overall aesthetic of Farmer and that it would be something that really would nicely complement the neighborhood. It's a very nice-looking high-end apartment complex, which is also going to have those 20 affordable units inside, which I also feel, once again, and I've talked about this before, then I promise I will stop, it's critically important that we continue to take the stigma away from affordable housing. There are still people in this state and in this country, not as much in Tempe. We actually have folks here who really want tons of more affordable housing. But we see in other cities where people are driving out affordable projects by saying we don't want more apartments and we don't want those people in those affordable apartments living next to us. The fact that you've got the 20 units of affordable housing contained in this development, I think is huge when it comes to also continuing to remove that stigma from people who live in affordable and workforce housing complexes. So I think this project also makes a very important social statement from my perspective. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and stop, but I will be supporting this evening. I just wanted to thank, the developer again, and once again, thank Mr. Yates for all of his hard work and his stewardship of his neighborhood for decades to come, and frankly, his family's stewardship of this community for over 5 generations, not decades, generations. With that said, anyone else on council, any further comments on this item? All right, hearing none, please vote. Actually, did I get a second before? Yes. I did. Yes, you were the second. Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. That item passes 6-1 with Councilmember Arredondo Savage voting no. The last item under the section is 7C4, which is to hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution to modify the schedule of charges, rates, deposits, and fees for water
We
services.
still have a second motion on 7C3 for the ordinance.
What is wrong with me? My goodness, I'm not used to these two hearing things. So let me go back. The second vote is on the zoning map amendment, amended planned area development overlay and development plan review. Thank you for catching my error. I'm going to ask for a motion on the ordinance for the zoning map amendment in addition to the amended planned area development overlay and the development plan review.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams. It's been moved, but do I have a second?
I also want to say that I'm really glad that Phil came up and he's the neighborhood expert, so I really appreciate him coming up and talking about the project.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember Adams. Been moved by Councilmember Adams. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Garland. Please vote. Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Okay, and that item also passes 6-1 with Councilmember Arredondo Savage voting no. Now I'll go to item 7C4, which is to hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution to modify the schedule of charges, rates, deposits, and fees for water services by amending Appendix A, Schedule of Fees and Charges of Tempe City Code, Section 33-56. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the City Council on this item? Hearing
No
none?
request to speak, Mayor.
No requests?
No requests.
I can't see why someone wouldn't want to speak on this item. It seems riveting. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion?
Move to approve.
All right, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Keating. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Garland. Please vote. Okay, Councilmember Adams,
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
No
Aye.
problem. Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Okay, and that item passes 7-0. The next item is number 8, current events, council announcements, and future agenda items. I will call on council members for their comments. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I have several announcements this evening. My first announcement is the Rock and Roll Marathon is this weekend, and Tempe is going to host it. There'll be races each day on Saturday and Sunday, starting between 7:30 and 8 a.m. The race will include a 5K, 10K, half marathon, and full marathon. Routes will be highlighted on Mill Avenue Bridge and University Boulevard through the ASU campus before directing runners up to Phoenix and Scottsdale. This event is always a lot of fun and features some of the best local musicians performing along the race routes. For those that haven't attended, it's really a great marathon, and the music is just so awesome. So I would encourage everyone to attend. And then my second announcement is Join Jennifer. I did have to reschedule my Join Jennifer that was supposed to take place in 85281 this week because I have COVID. And so we rescheduled the date for Tuesday, February 8th. And the meeting will start at 6 p.m. And then the location is the North Tempe Multi-Generational Center. As you know, I typically focus on issues to interest to neighborhoods in a different zip code at each meeting. So every other month I go to a different zip code and hear what those people are concerned about, what the residents are concerned about in their neighborhood. So it's really fun. I really encourage North Tempeans to come out and see what we have going on. And we're going to give an update. We have lots going on in North Tempe, and I'm proud of some of the changes that we're making. So come on out and check us out on February 8th. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That ends my announcements.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams. And I'm going to do something very interesting here. What I realized during the vote for First and Farmer is that we didn't vote for it with the stipulations included. And I think we probably need to take that vote again just to ensure that the stipulations read into the record by Ms. Sender actually are in the record. So if we can go back really quickly to 7C3, and once again, this is going to take a quick 2 votes. Can I have someone make a motion to approve the first vote on the general plan density map amendments with the stipulations that were read into the record?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Garland, seconded by Councilmember Adams. Please vote. Screen's not up yet.
It doesn't let you revote, Mayor. Sorry, you
Okay.
do verbal.
Okay, I'll do verbal. Okay, Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Garland?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage?
Nay.
Vice Mayor Keating?
Yes.
Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. That item passes 6-1 with Councilmember Arredondo Savage voting no. And then, of course, the second vote is on the zoning map amendment, amended planned area development overlay, and the development plan review. So I would ask for a motion, once again, including the stipulations that were read into the record by Ms. Sender. Moved by Councilmember Garland. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Cubie. I'll go for a roll call vote. Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Garland?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage?
Nay.
Vice Mayor Keating?
Yes.
Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. That item passes 6-1 with Councilmember Arredondo Savage voting no. Okay, just wanted to make sure we were totally clear on that, so my fault. Let's go back to item number 8 here for comments. I'm going to go next to Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple of things just really quick. I'm not sure which slide's going to come up first, but I'm going to kind of wing it here and see. There it is. Yes, very cool. I think many of you know that one of the most incredible people that we've had in this Tempe family, known as our Assistant Police Chief, Mike Pooley, just recently retired and took a position in Apache Junction as their next future police chief. And we just had a really great farewell to him. And it was so nice to see so many different people there. Not only people from the department, people from the different departments and different individuals from the community. It just really shows what an impact one person can have on a department, on a community, and on individuals. And I just want to just take a second to wish Pooley the best of luck. He has just been an amazing role model for the city of Tempe, and we are surely going to miss him and his family. You can see there in that picture, that's a picture of his family, all in public service, which is super cool. But the event was really nice and a little tear jerking, hard to see him go, but Apache Junction is really lucky to have him. And I just wanted to take a second to wish him well. So thank you for that. And secondly, we are finally going to have an opportunity again to celebrate Career Ready Tempe. I think many of you may remember Career Ready Tempe was one of the programs that was funded by the Innovation Fund, and it's still going strong, doing well. And next week, we're going to be recognizing 9 students from the Tempe Union High School District, because this is truly a great community partnership, not only with the city of Tempe, but also the Tempe City Council, the Tempe Chamber Foundation and the high school district. So it's just a great way to match these kids up with local businesses. And so they learn not only just a skill of work ethics and what happens within a workplace and different skills they need to have to learn different jobs, but also soft skills, showing up on time and looking people in the eye, and just those little things that sometimes we don't all know and maybe take for granted. So just a great appreciation for our local businesses that stepped up. And those are like Landings Credit Union, Bike Savers, Sandler Training, Printing Specialists, Micro Plus West, Business Radio, DBL Landscaping, and Hercutech. I want to say thank you publicly to everybody that really takes the time to make this program be so successful and really teach our youth, our next workforce, some great skills before they actually find a career and enter into the world of marketing. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. So thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Arredondo Savage. Next up, Councilmember Garland.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to invite everybody to join us, my awesome partner, Joel Navarro, on the Human Services and Community Safety Council Committee meeting. We have one, the next one is January 28th from at noon is when it starts. We're going to have a Human Services update and a Vision Zero update, so I hope you can try to join us. The next one is...
But we're done.
The next one is, it's going to be my first neighborhood talk. We're calling it Backstage Pass. What we're going to do is we're going to, if you can join us on Wednesday, February 2nd at 5:30 at the Tempe Center for the Arts. At 5:30, we're going to take a tour of the backstage of Tempe Center for the Arts, which will be a lot of fun. You get to see out the costumes and sets and things like that. It'll be a lot of fun. And then as soon as that's done, we're figuring 45 minutes, something like that. We're going to go onto the rooftop terrace, the rooftop patio, and we're going to have questions and answers. So please join us if you can. And then once that's done, there's an open mic at the Tempe Center for the Arts, and we hope you stick around and listen to some awesome music. So I hope you can join me on my first community talk on Wednesday, February 2nd. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councilmember Garland. And I love the graphic, too. That's pretty cool. Let's next go to Vice Mayor Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm actually kicking off the Rock and Roll Marathon on Sunday, very bright and early. So early, in fact, you think it was an official City of Tempe event, but it's not. So I'm excited to do that. Apparently, I'm being interviewed on the ASU Bridge. I just found that out today. So I'm very excited to be doing that and looking forward to seeing all the runners and chat with folks and trying to understand what exactly makes you want to run a marathon. So, also I want to wish everyone a very happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We do have our MLK Diversity Breakfast tomorrow, which I'm also looking forward to. As a former winner, I'm always excited for that event, and I'm looking forward to seeing my colleagues and the winners and the Human Relations Commission tomorrow morning for breakfast and some celebrations. So that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Keating. Next up, Councilmember Cubie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of things, if they could pop up on the screen.
Looks good. I think we got it up.
Yes. Congratulations to our colleague and friend Grace Delmont Kelly. I don't know if she's on the call, but I just want to congratulate her on hitting a milestone 25 years with the city of Tempe. And for those of you who don't know Grace, she oversees our energy management, and I'm in awe of all that she's accomplished in the 7 years since I've been on council. And so bear with me, I want to talk about her even more. She is a huge part of our efforts to update our carbon neutrality and our renewable energy goals in 2018. She did all the research on what other cities are doing and are committing to, and she ensures that Tempe remains the leading edge of this issue. She's worked with the utilities to make our goals achievable by laying all the groundwork for current and future utility scale solar partnerships. And throughout her tenure with the city, 25 years, she's been responsible for installing 4.14 megawatts of solar at 7 city facilities across the city through the use of purchase and power agreements with utility providers. And I know ASU, I talked about ASU before, but I think they envy her negotiating skills because she's gotten better deals in many cases than ASU has. And she also works internally with facility staff to conduct regular energy audits and facilitate retrofits in all our city facilities. I know Councilmember Adams appreciates that background since she did so much work in facilities. And Grace has installed more energy efficient lighting, air conditioning controls than ever before. And she's also a great steward of taxpayer dollars because as she reduces our energy costs by making these improvements, they pay off through energy efficiency rebates, and she seeks them out just aggressively, zealously, and she applies for the tune of nearly $50,000 in rebates that she brings in every year for the city of Tempe. We should just give her a bonus, right? And certain APS rebate programs have installed 11 much needed EV charging stations, and that's also really important. She's led the EV charging stations at the Hardy Yard and at the Tempe Library. So Grace, to sum it up, she champions so many of the things that you and Mr. Mayor and the council that we hold dear, and we're so blessed to have her here with us and hopefully for a long time to come. Congratulations, Grace, on hitting that 25-year milestone, and thank you for everything you do for the city of Tempe and for our sustainable city. Thank you. And next up, I wanted to promote an event that I'm organizing for the Stardust Center for Affordable Homes and the Family at ASU. We're interviewing the 2 authors of Dream, Play, Build. It's James Rojas and John Camp. And they're leaders in community engagement, and they use art and creative expression and storytelling to sort of shake up the classical community meeting. And so they're going to offer different amounts of wisdom that they've distilled from community meetings that they've led across the world. And they have a transformational approach that I'm really eager to hear about and dive into. They have a lot of case studies that they're going to point to and how you can sort of turn it upside down and how community engagement can actually be fulfilling for the community and for the city. So join us on February 8th, Tuesday, 12 to 1 o'clock. It's a Zoom virtual webinar. Just go to sustainability.asu.edu/events and register for this virtual event. And thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Cubie. Next up, Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to keep this short. I think we have about 5 viewers on this channel, and I think we talked everybody off. So I want to say, Mike Pulley, hey, I wish you the best in Apache Junction. You're going to be an outstanding chief out there. You're going to be deeply missed. I truly am going to miss you. You've been a true impact to this community. So I just want to say thank you and congratulations at the same time, and enjoy yourself. That's it, Mayor. And
Thank you,
MLK Day.
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Yes, once again, I would invite everyone, just 2 quick things, to watch our MLK celebration tomorrow morning. The event's going to be held virtually this year due to the surge in the Omicron variant, but we would definitely encourage people to watch and still take in the spirit of everything Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stood for. We always have a great celebration and would encourage everyone who's out there right now to take a look tomorrow morning. And also, just lastly, just wanted to say as well a thank you to Assistant Chief Mike Pooley for his dedicated service to the city of Tempe. Had an opportunity to attend his retirement ceremony, and as Councilmember Arredondo Savage talked about, it was a very joyous time, but also a very emotional time. Because as exciting it is to become a chief in a new city, Mike talked about how this, Tempe is his family. This is where he's been for over 2 decades, and it's something that's very sort of challenging to do, to leave your family. But we've always told him, when you are family, you can always come home anytime. And so, Mike, we obviously love you very much. And congratulations. We know Apache Junction is getting a great new chief. So just wanted to say thank you for your years of service, not just to the Tempe Police Department, but frankly to all of the members of our community. You've been a tremendous asset to all of us. So thank you. With that said, I'm going to move on to item number 9, public appearances. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the City Council? And if so, please come forward and state your name and city of residence for the record. Doesn't look like it. Okay, well, with that said, that means we're going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 9:10 p.m. Thank you so much, everyone. Council, we have an executive session to finish up.